Yo, yo, yo. What's good? What's good? Welcome to another episode of the CheckDown. This is the NCAA SEC review. So you know it's going to get a little intense today, but I'm here with the crew, man. Pop, what's good with you?
I'm good, chilling. Glad to be back with people.
Yeah, man, we back. Like we never left nothing. What's good with you, Dre?
Hey man, that's a great day. We get to talk about the best conference in college football and the best team in college football today. So it's a good day, man. Roll Tide.
I think two people got an argument about that one, though. I think two people got an argument about
I
that
mean,
one.
ain't no argument. I mean, my team's the best team in the conference. I don't care what nobody talking about.
Hey, J Mick,
I don't care what nobody talking about.
what's your team record the last 6 times you played Alabama?
When's the last time you won a natty?
What's your record when you play us?
I think it's 1-5, but that one time and we beat you in the natty.
When's the last time you won the SEC championship?
And we won it like 2 or 3 years ago.
Who won it last year?
Did you win a natty?
Who did we beat to win it?
I mean, you beat us, but then you went to the.
Okay, we beat you to win what? The SEC championship.
But you
so
didn't
until
win
further notice, you can't say your team is the best in the SEC until your team actually wins that SEC championship.
But I mean, my team has done what your team ain't done in 4 or 5 years.
Hey, your team did what my team did 15 years ago, damn near.
I'm not talking
Congratulations. Congratulations, man. Y'all got to catch up still. Y'all still got to catch up.
Talking about 15 years ago. Like, we're
y'all the little brother, man. Y'all the little brother. It's okay. Y'all got to catch up.
We're the little brother that went, back to back.
Y'all the little brother, man.
Like 2 or 3 years ago.
Hey, we been went back to back. That's old news for us.
Last time you won a natty, though.
That's cool. That's cool, man. It's been a couple years. Hey,
I mean, it's definitely been a couple years.
It's been a couple years. You got 2 and 50 years. Congratulations.
Hey, well, J Mix, you already on the mic. You know what I mean? How you feeling, bro? How you doing today?
I mean, I'm feeling good. I mean, and we get to talk about the SEC. I mean, the best conference in college football. So I mean, like when you're doing that, and you're gonna always feel good.
All right. Well, we got a question. He said this is the only question as a whole. Do you think the reason why college football you don't really see teams with good or great backup quarterbacks in case their stars get injured because it's hard?
No, I just think talent is spread out. I think that's I mean, like if you're talking like 10, 15 years ago, I mean, that was the case. I mean, you had guys that would sit and wait to play, but guys is not, I'm not gonna say no guys do that, but very few guys are gonna sit back and just wait 2 or 3 years to play. So
I mean,
especially with like if they trying to get their bread and they trying to get their own shine as a quarterback, yeah, they're not gonna sit behind the starter for like a 1, 2, even 3 years before they get their chance.
Well, I think it depends on the situations that you're looking at. I can point out a couple of situations around college football where they have really good backup quarterbacks and really good quarterback rooms. We're actually going to talk about a couple of those today. So, I mean, it just depends on who the coach is, what team it is, what the coach is like. I mean, I can't say I've had a problem with backup quarterbacks. I mean, backup quarterback won me the natty. I was just talking to Smitty about it. 2nd and 26. That was a backup quarterback at that time. So, I don't know. I think it just depends on what kind of program you run and the culture that you instill at your program. And that doesn't mean you can keep everybody, but I think certain coaches have a better chance at keeping kids on campus and sitting behind other kids than other schools do.
I agree, because like to the point you made, if you look at Ohio State, like that's another program where you see quarterbacks sit and wait for their opportunity, even if it's that 1 year and they ball out. So I agree. It depends on the program, how they develop players.
I think it's a little bit of like what y'all saying, right? Like it's a little bit of both. Like it's hard for a guy that's talented to have a school tell him, look, if you come here, you're gonna play, you're gonna be the starter. We guarantee that. We're giving you the full ride. Instead of going somewhere where, let's say for instance, the guy's sophomore. You know what I mean? You a freshman, he a sophomore, but he got the job. He's a top guy. It's a few guys that's been in that situation. I think Justin Fields was in that situation at one point. Joe Burrow was in that situation at one point. And they decided to go to the school that said you're going to be the starter. It's hard to keep a guy that believes he is top tier talent in the NCAA as a backup, because he knows if I take the opportunity here or I take the opportunity there, they're guaranteeing me, they're making that promise. I'm going to be on the field when I step on the college grounds, man. I'm him. I'm that guy. So it's hard to bring in a 4-star, 3-star and tell them, hey, you're going to sit for 2 years. You're going to sit for 3 years. When you got so many guys. And now NIL makes it a little even more hard. Like, I didn't believe Arch Manning was going to sit this long, though. That's like one of the situations I think is the outlier right now. Arch Manning is going into sitting for year 2 or 3.
It's year two.
This will be year 2, but that's one of the situations, Arch being a backup. I mean, even if you go now, this isn't necessarily like for the future, because I think LSU has their quarterback of the future coming in with this upcoming recruiting class. But if you go look at LSU's quarterback room, they still have a good, talented quarterback room. They got a guy from, I think he came from Vanderbilt. He's going to back up Nussmeier, who a lot of people are high on, including me. You have at Georgia, you have Jaden Rashada that transfers into Georgia, who was a highly rated prospect, and now he's going into that room with Gunnar Stockton, the Pug kid, Brian Puglisi. Like, you have some of these schools, they do have the talent, and they're keeping the talent around. It's just, I mean, you're gonna always lose kids, right? That's always gonna happen. But I think that's why you see the top schools recruit the way they do. Like, even if you look at Tennessee is right now, they just signed Nico 2 cycles ago. This year they're going to sign GMAC, who's the top quarterback out of Tennessee. Then next year they're going after the top quarterback in the nation in Faison Brandon. So they're stacking these top quarterbacks. Alabama's trying to do the same thing. I mean, even Texas, the example you just used, they're doing the same thing. They got Arch coming in after Ewers. And then behind Arch in the 26 class, if everything stays the way it is, or they got KJ Lacey in the 25 class. He's a top 10 quarterback in the class. Then after that, they got Rajah Bell's son committed, and he's one of the top quarterbacks in his class. So I think it just depends on what your reputation is, what you're known for, and the culture that you build. Because some of these kids, they have the mindset of, I have to start early, like Juju Lewis is one of those kids. That's why you see the schools that are in on his recruitment. Indiana is one of the schools on his recruitment. He can go start there early. Auburn is a school he can go start at early. Colorado is a school where he can go in and start at early. And USC, we had to see, but that's potentially a school where he could come in and start out early too. So you can usually tell during the recruiting process what type of kid you're dealing with. If it's a kid that expects to come in and play early, or if it's a kid that's cool with sitting behind a guy for a year or 2.
Yeah, but I think the thing with the Texas situation, it wasn't supposed to go this way though, because it's like Ewers stays healthy for the whole year, and he don't get hurt. I think Ewers comes out in the draft, and I think Archie's playing this year, but that didn't. Ewers has a history of getting hurt, and so that didn't happen. And nobody expected Ewers to go back to school, and he went back to school, and now Archie's he was like in a catch-22. Like, should I just stay or should I leave? And I think the reason why he stayed was because of his family. Like, I think his family kind of old school, so they're just like, why don't you just stick it out for another year?
That's what Brudget said down here at the bottom. He said, look at the family art. That's kind of why he believed Arch stayed.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
the humbleness of their family ties.
Yeah, because I think if Archie Manning is not a Manning, his parents are different. I don't think he stays. I think he goes somewhere else and plays right off the bat. But I mean, that's another story for another day. But yeah, I mean, college football, like the quarterback situation, it's, back in the day, everybody used to stay. Now it's kind of like what you said, Smitty, like it's like I don't want to say it's a 50-50 proposition, but you got some kids that'll stay and some kids that won't. Like, Joe Burrow didn't stay, Justin Fields didn't stay. And so, those are kids that didn't stay, but Carson Beck was, behind Stetson Bennett, he stayed. And I mean, like, he's thriving in the Georgia system right now. And I mean, he's projected to be, first round draft pick next year. I mean, as long as he has a good season. So it's just like, I mean, you can take, both roles and you can still be successful.
For sure. But I think certain quarterbacks is different. Like Joe Burrow, for him, there was no path for him to really get on the field. So he had to leave and go somewhere else to have the success he had. Right. Like, I think when the quarterbacks, when they start to get older, if you're talking about like juniors being backups on your team, yes, I can see those guys saying, hey, I'm going to leave. But those freshmen and the sophomores, I think if your coach has a reputation for putting guys in the league and you build the right culture and he's there for the right reasons, I don't think that kid is just going to leave. Like you said with Arch, if Arch was part of a different family, maybe. But I think with Arch, it's a situation of, okay, I'm still here with Sark. My parents have taught me, or my dad and my uncles have taught me a lot already. Sark is going to help me get even better. Why am I going to leave? Like, if Sark were to get fired, I think Arch would be gone. But I don't think Arch is there because it's Texas. I think he's there because he wants to play for Sark.
All right, so off the rip, man, I want to get into a team that I was kind of interested in because I didn't know they had as many. Hold on, they had as many upperclassmen as that, and it kind of surprised me when I seen it. Right, I was looking at LSU. I was like, I didn't really know they had so many upperclassmen. So LSU, as you already spoke on, Garrett Nussmeier be coming in as a starting quarterback. I'm trying to, I didn't, Garrett Nuss. Well, she back. So Garrett Nussmeier is coming in as a starting quarterback. And then they have. I don't know how big of a season he's gonna have, but they have a redshirt senior in Kyron Lacey, who I was looking at. I was kind of intrigued. I think he can have a breakout season. I know they had some guys leave out, obviously through the draft. They had some guys leave out through the transfer portal also. But I think with the new guys and I thought they were younger. Dre, when I was looking at, I was looking for like a lot of freshmen, sophomore type guys, and I seen that they got like only two technically young guys on the offense as far as like under juniors and seniors or whatever. They got one sophomore, redshirt sophomore, one redshirt freshman.
You talking about the center and the guard? No, it's the center and
wide receiver.
No, wide receiver. I was going to talk about him too. I'll talk about him in a minute.
Aaron Anderson.
I mean,
I'm gonna talk about him in a minute.
The culture at LSU though, because they don't have a lot of guys that just be leaving extra early or like a lot of their guys just stick around. I mean, I guess part of the reason is because I mean, like their recruits, a lot of recruits come from that state. I mean, and like they also recruit from other states as well. But I think that's a reason why you see like like that school year in and year out like they tend to have more like veteran players. I think.
I didn't realize they had so many. I didn't realize they had such a big pipeline through Texas.
I mean, Texas ain't that far from them.
Yeah, to the point.
I just didn't realize that they sometimes just not paying attention. I just didn't see that they had so many guys from Texas on their roster.
Yeah, from the point Jay Mick said, like LSU has made it a goal to really recruit in state. Make sure we keep the guys that are in the state going to LSU. We try to do that really heavy. That was something when Brian Kelly came in, like that was a point that he was trying to emphasize, and that's why you see that a lot of the players on our roster, they have been there for the last 2-3 years. And Kyron Lacey, that's a guy that I'm looking to see to step up because I've watched him when he was with Brian Thomas, when he was with Malik Neighbors, when Bude was still there. Kyron Lacey was there getting some playing time, and I've seen him grow as a player. And that's a guy I'm looking to see take over that wide receiver room and be that number one guy in the offense to help Gus, who is a quarterback that I like. He played in our bowl game last year, and what I saw from him, I like the flashes that he gave me, and I like what he's shown me as a quarterback. And I think that we're in good hands when it comes to him running our offense. Everybody knows the type of talent that we did have last year on the team, and I think he can help move us forward with that. Another thing I'm looking forward to is with LSU this year. My biggest gripe with the team was our DB room. It was one of the worst units to me, and out of the Power Five at the time, it was one of the worst DB rooms for me. It did not perform well, and I think this season, bringing in the coaches that we have brought in, I think we will see better production out of that. Another concern I have with the defense is the lack of D line depth. Like we do have some guys on the team, but it's just the depth at that position because we did lose a lot of talent in the draft. But overall, I don't really have like too many big concerns about the team. Like honestly, because I just think we're in the transition season. We did have like a lot of players leave on both sides of the ball during the draft this offseason. So we'll just see. But I'm liking what LSU has been building so far. But another player I have my eye on this season is Harold Perkins. I need to see if last year was an anomaly just based upon the usage that the coach had for him, or am I going to see the player he was when he was a freshman? Is that the player I'm going to get in year three? And that's a big question for him because if I could get the player he was in year three, I really like what this defense can do. But if I get anything like I saw last year, I just like that's just not the type of player I think he is. And I don't think that's going to help build the defense, especially that D line. And I don't think that player he was is just going to help build up that core right there at that position group.
I mean, to me, like, when it comes to Harold Perkins, like I think that was more of a scheme and a coaching thing because I mean I view him as a really talented player. And so yeah, he had a bad season, but like it's kind of like what you said, like the way they were using him, like I never agree with it. Like like I seen them using him in that what Florida State game, the first game of the season last year, and I'm watching the game like why are they using him? I'm going to drop back and cover it so much. Like that's not like his best skill. Like that's not his elite skill. And so like yeah, like I just hope the coach this year realizes that like he's a really elite pass rusher, and I mean like that's how they use him. And I think if that's how they use him, he's gonna have a great year. That's the way I feel though.
Yeah, I do think Blake Baker should be able to get the most out of Harold Perkins this year. I'm not really worried about him. Um, and as far as like impact players for LSU this year, I do think Aaron Anderson is definitely a name to watch because Aaron Anderson. I don't know. You might have saw the clip last year, but last year after the Alabama LSU game, Nick Saban basically walked up to him and said, "Hey, I wish you wouldn't have left because we had the perfect role for you this year." Like he was really high on that kid. A lot of people were high on Aaron Anderson, me included. He was a really big get when we got him. Didn't work out. He transferred out. Ended up going to LSU. I think he has a lot to bring to that offense this year, though.
I
I think they're
agree.
interesting team, man.
I agree. That's a player. When you listen to a lot of LSU content, I watch Locked On LSU. Um, and that's a player that they talk about, and I want to see what he brings to the table. I like the tape that I have seen of him, and I think he can really give a boost to our, our pass catching core.
Question: is PJ Woodland starting for you in your secondary this year? Because I've heard that. And I just wanted to ask because I wasn't 100% sure.
Um, I don't know. That's not a confirmed starter. I
I mean, if you look at the depth chart, he's like the starting right. He's what the starting right cornerback right now.
Yeah, he's the starting right cornerback currently, but I don't know if that's gonna be our I don't know if he's gonna officially be our starter when the season begins. I don't That's something I don't
Which is
know.
it's kind
The
of
reason,
it's kind of
well,
impressive to go to LSU and you're only a freshman and you're on the depth chart already as a starter. That's pretty impressive. I gotta say.
I mean, I just hope the kid has put on some weight if he's going to start for LSU this year because when coming out of high school, I think he was like a buck 55. That's not an
Yeah,
SEC corner.
yeah, he was small. And that's why I
Yeah.
say like I know they want him to start, but like to your point, to me he's skinny. Like he's skinny and small, and I'm just like I don't know if he's gonna be able to hold up against the type of players we're gonna be going against this season. Like I don't know if that's gonna be our starter going forward. But I'll
Do
see.
you know if he like some freshmen what they'll do is like they'll enroll early. Does anybody know if he enrolled early?
I didn't keep up with LSU's early enrollees.
I
Okay.
think he did.
So
That was like talks I was hearing in spaces and stuff like that.
It,
So
if you know when he signed, if he signed early signing day, there's a good possibility that he enrolled right after that.
and I
Because
think
usually the guys that enroll then, they usually are at bowl practices. A lot of them, at least.
and I also think if he's enrolled early, then I think it's a better chance that he put on some weight.
For
That's what
sure. For sure, that it's a possibility. I mean, even if he doesn't put on a lot of weight, we've seen corners have success in the SEC with a small frame, but they were really good. Like, I mean, Emmanuel Forbes is one that comes to mind, right? Emmanuel Forbes wasn't any. I don't think he was any bigger. If he was, maybe slightly bigger than PJ Woodland, but he had success. Like, he was a good corner at Mississippi State, so it can work. But that would be a concern that I had going into the season.
yeah, for me it's just durability, and I don't want him to put on too much weight that his frame can't handle it, but I do want him to be a little bigger. Um, but I like this is what I'll say with the defensive coaching staff, especially the DB coach they brought in. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I have high hopes for that room this year. Um, I'm not saying I think they're going to be like the best, but I think they'll be a lot but better than what I saw last year, because the production I saw out of that group last year was very abysmal. And so I think we'll see a better showing.
It should definitely be better. I don't think it can get any worse. Like, if it gets worse, then I don't know. Then Brian Kelly probably deserves to be fired if it gets worse.
Yeah, because like what I saw out of just specifically the secondary was poor. It was just poor play, out of position. Uh, I could keep I could go on and on about that position group. I was just not pleased with it at all. And if you look at where they rank amongst all FBS schools, it's very low. It's a very low ranking. And so like you said, Drake, it can't get any worse. That's why I think we'll get better production. And I'm just gonna put a little faith in the coaching staff that they're gonna put the players that need to be starting, they're gonna put them in the best position that they can.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, because I mean, like, I know a couple, fans of the Tigers, and after last season, like they were trying to say that they want Brian Kelly gone, and so that was after last year. So I can only imagine, like, if that defense doesn't improve, secondary doesn't improve, or they don't like, because the thing about LSU is like there's always gonna be expectations, man. That's just the way the school is, and so I think there's a certain amount of games that he got to win. And I think if he don't win a certain amount of games he got to win, he's not going to be there. They will fire him. And I think that's kind of how it's trending. But like, I mean, I'm not a huge Brian Kelly guy, but I think the guy can coach. I mean, he can coach, and I mean, like, he can recruit. So I mean, he should. LSU should be better, and I don't think there's any reason why they shouldn't. And I get it. I mean, like, they lost Neighbors and they lost Brian Thomas Jr. and they lost a couple other pieces. I mean, off the team, but the team got to play better. I mean, I just think that's what it comes down to.
For
What
me, it's the defensive side of the ball that has to play better, because we were in games where the defense kind of lost it for us. I'm not gonna lie, they couldn't get a stop, especially on the backside of the defense. You're playing out of position, you're giving up free yards. Like that side of the ball has to play better. And if we get better production out of that, and Gus, I'm not saying he has to be JD5. I'm not saying that. But if he can be a competent quarterback, I think we can win approximately 10 to 11 games this year. I think that.
So I mean, what I remember about your quarterback, I don't like calling quarterbacks gunslingers, but like so I remember when like we played y'all in the SEC championship game. I think that was 2 years ago, and like he was hurt. And I mean, like they brought him in the game, and he was slinging it like a gunslinger.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the thing about him is like he's gonna let it rip. Now, I mean that could be good and bad. I mean, it could be good. I mean, he can score a lot of points and all that, but when you let it rip like that, you can turn over the ball too. But I mean,
for
he's been in
sure.
yeah. I mean, he's been in your system for a little while, so I don't expect him to be a turnover machine. So I'm just, what I mean, like the Tiger team to me is like a team that I'm going to watch because I think they could be really good. It just, like it just depends on the coaching and like the players, pretty much to me.
Yeah, for sure. My like I said, my biggest question mark for the team is the defense. But outside of that, I don't really have too many concerns about the team because I know they're going to be coached well and they're going to play hard, and that's all I want
I
is
want
just
to.
for us to be competitive. That's it.
I want to say this too, and y'all might disagree because I know J Mick disagrees, but I don't think outside of a scandal happening at LSU, I don't think there's anything that Brian Kelly does this year that will get him fired. They were right outside of the playoff picture last year with an abysmal defense. Like, I think people will be calling for his job potentially, depending on how the season goes, because college football fans are usually very impatient. But those are usually the impulsive fans, right? Like Brian Kelly in year one won the SEC West, got to the SEC championship last year. I think you finished the season 10-3, if I'm not mistaken. That
Yeah,
guy's
I
not
think
getting
we
fired after
ended.
this season.
Yeah, I think we lost to Ole Miss last year.
He lost to Ole
Uh,
Miss, Alabama, and Florida State, and I think those were
yeah,
the only
yeah, but I'm talking
losses.
about our last game. To win. I forgot what we were doing, but I know we lost to Ole Miss. I think the last game of the season. I could be wrong, but yeah. Um, and yeah, I agree with you, Drake. I personally don't think he's gonna get fired if we don't make a playoff run. I just don't think that's gonna happen. I think the only way he does get fired, to your point, is either a scandal or the team just falls off the rails. That like if we just don't perform to the expectation that is expected of LSU football. If we don't do that, then I can see him being fired. But if we're like 10-3, 11-2 this season, I don't see Brian Kelly being fired from the team.
Yeah, so when I said that, like I was talking to LSU fans, like that's not the way I feel. Like I don't think he should get fired, but like those people that I talked to were just like they're really hot and cold, or not hot and cold, but like they're really hot on like LSU, and like that's their team, and so that's how they were talking after last year, and so that's what I'm
Now,
saying.
I heard that same talk, J Mick, but uh, to me, it's it's just like y'all are not being rational about the situation. But I think that specifically the staff changes Brian Kelly made, because that was the issue I know that a lot of LSU fans had was the fact that he hired some coaches that were poor, and the fact that Brian Kelly actually made changes that we have been asking for, like to me shows promise, shows that he knows that okay, at certain positions he has to have better coaching um at these at at these points. Like he knows we need to have a better DC. He knows we need to have a better DB coach. He knows like certain position groups need better coaching, and he showed that. And so I have great promise for the team. Like I
And I
said,
just,
if
yeah,
we happen to make it to playoffs, cool. But I'm not like that's not really what I want. I just want to see a competitive team,
and,
especially with the additions that have been brought to the SEC and the fact that they've taken away divisions now. I really want to just see how the team plays.
and I just think for his job security, it's like and with a lot of programs, it's about the boosters. I mean, if the boosters like you, then you don't stick around. The boosters don't like you, you might not stick around. So that's all I'll say.
I'll say this though, looking at your schedule, y'all have a tough schedule, man. Me personally, the way I'm feeling, and I've been saying it lately, I think y'all are gonna lose that USC week one. I think it could be. I think it could be a 4-loss season. Just looking at your schedule, because I think Ole Miss gets the better of you. Alabama, I'm obviously gonna say if we get the better of you,
Yeah,
and
we'll
I think
see.
Oklahoma potentially could get the better of you. If not Oklahoma, maybe a Florida team or
Florida. You just told me we're gonna lose to Florida. All right.
okay.
All right.
That's
All
nasty
right.
word,
I think
Greg.
A&M. I'm telling you, I think
Oh,
A&M
the
too.
Gator Nuggets. What
A&M.
are we doing, bro?
I
Okay.
She's
think
not.
A&M is another one of those games. I think
She's not.
A&M people are sleeping
A,
on A&M.
okay.
I mean,
Okay.
people sleep on A&M. So let me just say about A&M, right? And I don't hate A&M, but the reason why people sleep on A&M is they get all these recruits. They get these top 5, top 10 classes, and then they always lose like 4, 5, 6 games a year. That's why nobody really respects them. So
Yeah, until they
I
show
think
and prove me that they are something, I'm just like, I'm not saying I'm overlooking them. I'm just saying like it's Texas A&M. Like they're gonna play hard. I'm not gonna say like that's an easy game. They're gonna play hard. But I'm really upset you said we're gonna lose to Florida. I'm sorry.
That
I
was
said
nasty.
maybe. I didn't say
Nasty.
I didn't guarantee a loss. I didn't
I'm
guarantee
sorry.
anything, but I said maybe. There's a possibility
Well,
for
yeah,
sure.
nah, but I do agree with you. I don't think that SC game is a dub. Like personally, I don't like how we performed in the first game of the season the last 5 years. And so I just don't think that's a gimme game. And I think we could potentially lose that game. Like it's a
Yeah.
possibility.
That's where I'm
Um,
at right now.
this nigga said Florida. I'm sorry.
I didn't say for sure. I said it's a potential. It's definitely a potential you could lose to Florida. I think Florida's going to be a better team than were last year this year too. And their quarterback isn't bad. Graham Mertz isn't a bad quarterback. We'll see.
Well, all right. So the second team of the day, man. Since the lovely ladies in the comments asking about her team, her newfound team that somebody put her on. We can just set the Mizzou, man. You know what I'm saying? Brady Cook. What's the receiver name you told me about, Andre? I don't know which
Luther
one it was.
Burden.
Luther
Burden, yeah.
Bird. Look like they got a couple good receivers from when I was looking, man.
They got one of the best. They got one of the best, probably in the country as far as trios.
I was looking at the dude, Mookie Cooper. I like that. I like the way he looked like.
They definitely got some talent.
I seen a little bit of clips from him. He looked like he might be poised to have a decent season alongside Luther Bird.
Yeah, I think they're talking about Burton being like a top 3 wide receiver in like the class coming out. Like, so I mean, he's definitely he's a beast. So
Luther Burden is like that.
Well,
he's definitely one of the best receivers in college football. I think he's going to be in definitely that top 3 wide receiver conversation. Him along with probably McMillan from Arizona, and then with the third spot, I keep switching up on the third spot. I haven't decided there yet, but he's definitely one of those receivers that is a difference maker. My problem with that team, though, they got Brady Cook back, right? The quarterback.
Right.
He isn't the most consistent. He's a good quarterback, but he's not the most consistent quarterback in the world. They're replacing their left side of their offense line. That could cause some problems. Now, granted, both of those guys have some experience, right? One of them's a sophomore, one of them's a grad transfer. So it's not like they're starting 2 freshmen or anything like that. But I think the biggest part of the offense this year is going to be Marcus Carroll. What are they going to get out of Marcus Carroll? Because Cody Schrader was the leading rusher in the SEC last year. They don't have him this year. They need some production out of that running back room, and they brought him in from Georgia State. He did have good numbers at Georgia State, but I want to see if that's going to translate to the SEC and if he's going to be able to have that success. That's just on the offense side of the ball. Defense side of the ball, they lost some key pieces too. I think they'll be a good team. I don't know if they deserve as much hype as they're getting right now.
I mean, my thing with Cody
My
Schrader.
bad, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'll say this real quick about the running back. Like, the funny thing is, Cody Schrader, he came from a D2 school too, and
Yeah, he did.
he was that productive. And so they got another guy. And honestly, I'm not saying he's gonna be like Cody Schrader, because Cody Schrader had a hell of a year last year. I mean, like watching those Missouri games and watching him run and catch the ball, like it was crazy. I was like, where did this guy come from? And
Yeah, bro, he cooked us. I ain't going to.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, he cooked a lot of different people. It's just not LSU. He cooked a lot of teams last year in the conference. But it's kind of like what Dre's saying. Like, they're gonna have to get some production. Out of Marcus Carroll. And I get it. He played for Georgia State, but you just gotta wait and see how good he's gonna be.
Yeah, I agree with that point because Schroeder is like that's a big loss for the team, and you need to see what that running back room is going to give you production wise. I think, like to Dre's point, I don't understand all this hype Mizzou's getting. I think they're a good team, but I don't think they're this juggernaut of a team. Like I'm getting the impression from when I'm hearing people talk about them. Um, I need to see what these new additions on offense are going to bring to it, and I'm not gonna lie, the SEC is tough. It's tough. So we'll see how they perform, but there's just a lot of questions, especially on the offensive side of the ball for them.
I think a big loss. Well, on defense, the biggest loss of all is the defensive coordinator, obviously, going to LSU. That's a huge loss for them. And if you look at some of the pieces they lost to the draft, they lost two corners that started for them and their best defensive lineman to the draft. Now, they did bring in a freshman, Williams Nowari. He was 5-star. A lot of teams were after Williams Nowari. So we'll see if he sees the field early and what kind of impact he could have on that defensive line. But I'm not a believer in that defense just yet. Like, I have to see it for me to really believe that defense is going to be good. I think they're going to have a bad defense this year.
See, I don't know, man, because so like when we had divisions, we were playing Missouri every year, and like for the most part, since I've been watching Missouri, in the SEC, their defenses have been good. So I kind of, and I get the DC left with LSU, I get that, but I do still have a little bit of trust in them and in their system. That like what I'll say is, I don't think the defense is going to be as good as it was last year, but I don't think it's going to be like poor either. Like it might be more like the average level to me. So.
The good thing is they have a pretty, I won't say weak schedule, but they have a lot of easier games on their schedule. Because you can't say it's a complete weak schedule, because they do have a stretch where they play Alabama, Auburn, Oklahoma, and A&M within 5 weeks. So that's never like easy. But if you look at the other teams they play, I mean, Buffalo, Murray State, Boston College, Vanderbilt, UMass, South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. Like they'll probably win at least 8 games this year still. And if they're better than I expect on the defense side of the ball, and they can get that production out of Carroll at the running back spot, and that left side of the offense line holds up, then maybe they are a 9 or 10 win team this year.
I mean, the one thing I say about Missouri, like I said, like Georgia used to play them every year. You really gotta if you gotta go to Missouri at night, those are hard games. I don't care how good the team they're playing is. You go to that stadium where it's at night. It just the environment is different. That's what I'm gonna tell you. So it's not like like if they're playing so I don't got the schedule in front of me, but whoever they're playing at Mizzou. And like that shit turned into a night game. I'm just saying, they have the capability of beating really good teams at home during night games.
Yeah,
For
they put out the
sure.
schedule, but they don't have the time. They put out the part of the SEC schedule as far as times go, but some of the games are flex games, so we don't really have times for them yet.
Yeah, and and it's just coming from my standpoint where Georgia has had to go into Mizzou at night, and we've beaten them, but it was a real struggle, and our team was much better than theirs. And
it's like Auburn at night. Auburn is the same thing. You play Auburn at night, it's not fun.
Yeah, it's different. So
Yeah, they like the energy of that crowd feeds into the team, and they play tough, man. So no, that like Mizzou, I think I think Mizzou will be okay. Like just Dre, you reading off the schedule, yeah, I could definitely see in them getting 9 to 10 wins this year. Um, to me, it's really just the production you're gonna get out your quarterback, in addition to the new quarterback that just came in. So we'll see. But I don't think the defense is gonna like fall off a cliff. They were pretty decent last year. I think they'll be okay this year. Um, but yeah, no, Mizzou cool. I just don't think they just playoff contender that I hear people saying.
I mean, the only way they'll be contenders is if they can get to if they get to 11 wins, they're gonna be in the playoff. I mean, that's I mean,
They don't even have. They might be. They might get there with 10. That's what I'm saying. If they can, if they can be better than I anticipate, they could definitely be a playoff team this year. Because I could see them getting potentially to 10 wins, but I probably got them somewhere around 8 right now.
Yeah, see, I think I got them around 9. Like, I think they can win 9 games.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, I
That just
definitely
means one of the games I'm looking at. You think that I think is a loss, you think it's a win. I mean,
yeah, and
some of these games are toss-ups.
And I just think 10-11 for them is going to be kind of tough. I don't think they can get to 11. They might be able to get to 10 possibly, but 11, I just don't see that.
11 is going to be tough, especially when you play Auburn, Alabama, and Missouri back-to-back. That means that out of those 3 games, you can only lose 2 games, but then you can't lose another game all season.
And I just don't think that's going to happen. Like I think that at the bare minimum, they're going to lose at least 3 games. The bare minimum. So I mean, but
it's a test for them though, because I heard a lot of positives about that team, like how they could come out. But I don't know, like I see a lot of guys stepping in too, where they got possibly, from what I was looking at, like 4 or 5 new starters.
On offense, on defense, I had to go back.
Defense, it look like offense. It look like it's only 3: Marcus Bryant, Caden Green, and Marcus Carroll.
They're gonna have a new corner, D tackle, and a D end. Those 3.
Zion,
yeah, those 3 will be new starters for them. And I will say this: if this projected depth chart I'm looking at is true, like they have a lot of experience on that team. It's a lot of upperclassmen. So maybe that could work in their favor, because I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 redshirt seniors. Or no, 4 redshirt seniors and 1 redshirt junior. That right there, that means
that DN, that backup DN on the left side here, redshirt senior too. Joe Moore.
Yeah, I mean, they got more experience when you go look at the depth, but just going off the starters, you have all that experience, or just guys that have been getting coached up for 4 to 5 years now. They should be ready to play. We'll see. I mean, it could be a positive, but it could also be a negative, right? Because once you see that many upperclassmen starting, it could be just, okay, we've been developing these guys to get to this point. But if you go look at some of the good teams, once you start seeing seniors, like redshirt seniors, starting on your defensive line and stuff like that, like it doesn't happen a lot. It can happen in some instances when you've had guys in front of you that have been getting drafted first, second round consistently, but it's usually not a good sign.
Well, yeah, because by that time, I mean, if you're really like that, you should be in it. You should have went to the draft. Like that's how I look at it. But I mean, like sometimes you got situations where kids want to, I mean, they've been playing together for a long time and they just want to finish it out. And so I mean, like, with the landscape of college football and like, them getting the money now, they don't have to leave. So I mean, it's like the connotation is a little bit different to me now. But I mean, and I mean, like Missouri, like for me, like the defense, like I said, I think the defense is going to be average. I mean, for me, it falls a lot on the quarterback. Like if Brady Cook can have a year like he had last year, then I think they can win a lot of games. But I've seen Brady Cook have good seasons, and I've seen him play bad. So to me, he's kind of like the wild card for them.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it too. I was like, man, he did have. I think not last year, but the year before that, he had a pretty good season. If I'm not mistaken, when I was looking at the stats.
Yeah, I think his season last year was really good, and then the season before that, it was kind of average. So, but yeah. I mean, like he's progressed. Like he's played a lot of football. So, I don't think he should regress. Like I think he should be still getting better. But like I said, he's kind of a wild card for them because without having Cody Schrader, I mean, and you know, like, and I get it that they have Luther Burton, and he's a great wide receiver. But if Brady Cook don't have a good year, that team not gonna have a good year.
So, sure.
I mean, that receiver core should make it easy for him, though. Like I really do think that's one of the better receiving cores in the nation. I mean, it should make it easy for him.
Yeah, I think they're definitely in the conversation for me, like having the best core in college football. Like they're definitely in that conversation.
Yeah, you're right, J. Mick. I had it backwards. Last year was the good year, and the year before that, it was kind of mid. He had like 2,700 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest. Like it wasn't like his year last year, but I mean, like he had Cody Schrader last year. I mean, like Cody carried a lot of the burden for that offense last year. And so I mean, like Brady Cook, I mean, he could be a low key draft pick. You know, maybe obviously not in the early in the draft, but like if he has another really good year, you know what I mean, he might be a late round pick. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, 4th, 5th round.
Yeah, late, yeah.
All right, so the third team on our list today, man. I know y'all want to hear about the good teams, but there were some teams I thought we could get through a little faster. So the next team I got on the list is the Ole Miss Rebels. Somebody on this panel, speak highly of them, so I'm gonna let him speak first. Go ahead, Andre.
Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss has a very, very good roster. They did amazing in the portal this year. If they don't have success this year, I think it's the end of Lane Kiffin out there at Ole Miss. Like I don't see how they can't have a good season this year. Jackson Dart coming back as a starter. They also have a really good receiving core. That defense should be good because
what's up with this dude, Wells Jr.? What's up with Wells Jr.? I see he a transfer in.
You talking about a receiver? Yeah, he's nice.
I mean, did he transfer from South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's nice. J. Mick, y'all play South Carolina pretty regularly. I mean, that was on your side of the conference. If you want to touch on him a little bit more, Paul, if you can.
Yeah, I mean, so first I'll talk about Wells, right? So Wells, like we were playing them last year, and they was giving us all the trouble. And then I think that's where it was either him or Xavier Legette, like had a foot injury. I think it was Bo Wells. And like that kind of, I'm not saying that changed the tide of the game, but like that definitely helped us, take control of the game. So I mean, like, for him to transfer from South Carolina to Ole Miss is a huge add. I mean, to me, like Lane Kiffin, like the offense is gonna be buzzing. Like Jackson, I'm not the biggest Jackson Dart fan, but I think with the amount of weapons that he has on that team, I mean, he's gonna be productive. And I just think for Ole Miss, it comes down to the defense because that's who failed them last year. I mean, in certain games, like games against Georgia and a couple other games, they just couldn't stop anybody. And so, so unless Lane get that defense right, I mean, they're gonna. I mean, the thing about Ole Miss is like since Lane's gotten there, they've consistently been winning like 8-9 games, and I can see them doing that again. But I mean, now if their defense gets better from like all the kids that they brought in on defense and on offense.
Then I got 6 new starters, J. Mick. I ain't even realized that until I just looked again.
Yeah, because they hit the portal hard. Like the guys they got though, they're really good players. Like Chris Paul Jr. is a good linebacker. Walter Nolan was one of the top players in the portal. Princely was really good too, out that edge. And then who else did they? I mean, they brought in Trey Amos. Trey Amos would have started at Alabama this year if he didn't decide to leave. Like they brought in a lot of talent on that defense side of the ball. The defensive coordinator, he has to get out of his own way though. Pete Golding, I hate Pete Golding. I think he's a terrible defensive coordinator. At least that's what he was when he was at Alabama. But if he can get out of his way, which it seemed like he kind of did last year, I was waiting 2 years for him to spy a quarterback while he was at Alabama. All of a sudden, he plays against Alabama. He starts spying quarterbacks. So maybe he's getting out of his own way. We'll see. So I think it is dependent on that side of the ball, though, because the offense should be good. I'll say one big loss for them was Quinshon Judkins going to Ohio State. Yeah. That was one of the best running backs in college football, man. That kid is special.
But
he was special from the day he stepped on campus.
To your point, to me, I don't know who Ole Miss starter and running back is, but one of the transfers they did bring in was Rashad Amos. He was from Miami of Ohio, and the production that he gave to that team was pretty good numbers. I think he had a little over 1,100 yards.
Wait,
They
Let's
got you,
Trey
Reese's
Amos.
Bentley. They
Yeah, I
got
mean,
you,
Trey,
Reese's
Trey Amos
Bentley.
is the corner.
I said Trey. I meant Rashad. My bad.
Rashad.
yeah.
Rashad.
Rashad Amos. Yeah,
I
my
mean,
bad.
Rashad is the third string. Like right now, the first string
Yeah.
is Ulysses Bentley. He's a senior transfer right now. But what
Yeah,
I'm saying about
Bentley.
Lane is though, like when he doesn't have Judkins, I expect it to be a rotation. Like I don't, like Judkins was a special running back where he'd be in all three downs. I think Lane is going to do more of a rotation.
Well, I don't know about last year, J-Mick, but I know the year prior when they had Zach Evans and Judkins, Zach Evans almost rushed for 1,000 yards. Now, Judkins still got his fair share of carries. Like, I think he had like 1,600 yards rushing. But Zach Evans almost got 1,000 as the backup. So I do think you're right as far as the rotation goes.
Yeah, like
For
I just
sure.
Lane, that's how he likes to do things, especially at the running back. Like he likes to have a rotation. Like he likes to keep guys fresh, like guys with different skill sets. So
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, a lot of the better teams around the nation do that. If you go look at the top teams in college football, a lot of them have a rotation. I mean, Georgia, y'all run a rotation. Bama runs a rotation. Ohio State's going to run a rotation this year. Even Michigan ran a rotation. Like when you go look at those top schools, I mean, Texas is another one. They run a rotation. So that's the way to go, really, in college football now, is to run a rotation. I was having a conversation not too long ago about the last team that actually won a national championship without a rotation of running backs. You have to go back to Ezekiel Elliott, or at least that's the conclusion we came to. We couldn't think of one outside of Ezekiel Elliott who was like a bell cow, like a true bell cow running back.
Because I was going to say, with like Zeke that year, like didn't he run for like 1,600 yards that year or something like that?
His carries were crazy. Like if you go look at it, how many carries he got in college, it was a lot of carries. He had a lot of wear and tear on his body by the time he got to the league already.
I mean, but it's kind of amazing for him as an athlete though to get all that wear and tear and still go to the league and still be really productive though. So and you got to give him credit for that.
Facts.
Nah, for sure.
For sure.
Fucking facts, dog. Because hey, it's a couple running backs that like they had that same wear and tear and they did not make it through an NFL career, let alone be very productive. A couple of years where Ezekiel is arguably could have been, if not the best running back, top 3. You know what I'm saying? A couple seasons there.
No,
for sure. You see a lot of like them top running backs that get like that type of wear and tear. They wash out like after a couple of years. Like it's a special type of player like Ezekiel Elliott that you see that is able to overcome that and last, like have at least a 5-year prime in the league.
But that's why you see like a lot of the top schools, they are running with the rotation because it's easier to sell that to recruits coming in. And as long as you show how good you are while you're part of the rotation, like you're still good, they're still going to be high on you when you're coming out to the draft. Now, you might not go first round, but you're still going to go pretty early in the draft as long as you're productive in college.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, so when it comes to the league, though, I think you got to be a special running back to go for like first round. Like you got to be like a Bijan or like a Gibbs, something like that. I mean, I think you got a couple running backs coming out this year that could get taken in the first round, like maybe 1 or 2. But I mean, it just like I mean for me, like the kid out of Oklahoma State, Gordon, like he got an opportunity to go in the first round. So there's a couple guys. I mean, you get that. It doesn't happen here, but I mean, but you got a couple guys that come out every so often that they might get drafted in the first round. So.
Omarion Hampton could be another one of those guys at North Carolina.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you just look at this year, I don't think a running back went in the first round.
No, I think the
like
earliest.
Looking back.
Yeah, I think the earliest was
second.
Texas, right?
Yeah,
it was Jonathan Brooks right before Giants pick. It was like 2 picks before our pick in the second.
And it's kind of amazing that he went because he tore his ACL too. So I mean, that's what kind of talent that people thought he was. Even coming off a torn ACL, he still went second round.
Apparently, the Panthers. So he went to the Panthers, right?
Yeah, he
That
did.
was
Yeah, yeah.
Apparently, the Panthers took him because he had took a top 30 visit to the Giants, and they thought the Giants were going to take him if they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, because when the Panthers drafted him, man, I was cursing them out for that. Cursing them out for that pick. They drafted like the tight end out of Texas too. I I was live cussing at them that one pick.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was pissed. But I mean, the thing about the Panthers is, I mean, like they actually need like the offensive talent, man, because I mean, Bryce did not have a lot last year, so there.
Not definitely, especially at the running back position. I thought that was a great pickup for them with the Jonathan Books draft. Like I thought that was great for that room.
Yeah, I think it definitely was a good pickup. All right, Dre, your time to shine, good brother.
Just want to talk about Alabama. Yeah, I mean, look, Kalen DeBoer. Well, let's start from the beginning. Nick Saban retires after the season. Definitely a big loss, right? Greatest coach of all time. He gave a lot of really good coaches their start or rehabilitated them and helped them get to the spots they are now. So that was definitely a loss. We lost some players because he retired, is what it is. You hire Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer comes in. I like the moves he made as far as the staff goes. He kept some of the most important pieces on the staff as far as running back coach goes, D-line coach goes. He brings in his wide receiver coach, who I think is one of the best in the nation at his job. You bring in, this was an interesting hire to me, but you bring in Kane Womack, who got his start at Ole Miss as a graduate assistant under his dad. And he helped his dad to develop a defense they called a Swarm D. And that Swarm D at South Alabama last year was a top 15 defense in the nation. They actually beat Oklahoma State last season, and they beat them pretty bad. So I got high expectations for the offense and the defense. I mean, as far as personnel goes, front seven, yeah, you lose. I mean, you lose both your starting edge rushers, but if you go look at the depth, man, that's probably one of our strongest positions on the actual team. Like Q-Rob is probably going to start this year because he has the seniority in the room. But if you look at what we have behind him, it is a lot of talent there. If it doesn't work out with him, we'll move on to the next guy. We're actually going to have a guy with his hand in the dirt a lot more this year, too, opposite of the one edge. You got, I think, Jamarian Latham is supposed to start there. You got guys like LT Overton and Keon Keeley's third or fourth string, depending on who you talk to. So we're stacked as far as front seven goes. Now, when you get to the secondary, that's where I do have a couple of questions. I like the players we have, and I think they can be very, very good for this team. Malachi Moore, obviously, staying was a huge, huge thing that happened for us, right? Because he's probably going to be one of those leaders of the defense, along with Deontay Lawson, and maybe a few others. But you bring in Keon Sabb, who started 6 games for Michigan last year. He was, I think, supposed to be a starter for them this year. So you bring him in to replace Caleb Downs, who Caleb Downs is one of the best safeties in America last year and will be that this year. So that was a big loss. But you replace him with somebody that has a lot of talent and has big game experience. He played in the national championship. If I'm not mistaken, I think he started that game, and I think he started against us in the game prior to that. So he has big game experience. He's a good player. You bring in Damani Jackson, who was the number 1 corner in his class, but he went to USC. Now we have to see is he the talented player that everybody thought he was coming out of high school and just got put in a bad situation, or is it a case of he was overhyped coming out of high school? He was never that good. Like that's something we have to see this year. But
Did I freeze or did he freeze?
No, I think he froze.
I think he froze.
Oh. Hey, look, I'm over here like, oh man, did my internet crash? Jesus Christ. All right. Well, if anybody else want to keep going, y'all keep going. I don't know what happened to bro. He probably got a phone call. I'm interested in Alabama though, J Mick. I ain't gonna lie.
I mean, to me, like I think a lot of people are forecasting their demise. I don't think they're gonna be a bad team. To me, it's kind of what he was saying. Like they hired a coach out of Washington, the board. So I actually think their offense is gonna be better. So, and I mean, like I mean, like they lost players on both sides of the ball because Saban left. But like theoretically, like I think they're gonna have a much better offense this year than they had last year. I just think, at some point, like you're gonna miss Nick Saban at some point. I think the defense might suffer a little bit, but I think the offense is going to be able to carry that Bama not being as great as they've been on defense. So I don't see the fall off in terms like I don't like Alabama as like much as the next guy, but like like people talking they're going to lose 4 or 5 games. Like I just don't see that. Like I think Bama is going to lose somewhere between 2 to 3 games. And I mean, for those that want Bama to lose all them games, that's great that's what you want. But I just don't see it. And I mean, Jalen Milroe's been getting better. So I just think as long as he's getting better, in which I would expect him to get better because who his coach is. So like some of his mechanics and stuff like that, I think that's going to get better being coached by the board. So I can't see Jalen Milroe taking a step back, and that's why I think their offense is going to be better. So yeah, I mean, like I've been saying, like for me, Bama probably going to lose about 2 to 3 games.
I was just gonna tell you, as far as the Jalen Milroe thing goes, yes, working with Sheridan and DeBoer should help him, but he's also working with Jordan Palmer too. And if anybody is curious about Jalen Milroe and his fit in the Alabama offense under Kalen DeBoer, Jordan Palmer did a really good breakdown of things he saw on film last year that he thought would be able to translate into this system this year. And one of the big things that they do in the DeBoer offense, you're going to take the shots down the field. And we know for sure that Jalen can take those shots. He was one of the most accurate deep ball passes in college football last year. So he just has to clean up the intermediate stuff a little bit. But I also think the way the offense runs, he's probably going to know half of the time where he's going pre-snap anyway, just because of all of the motion and the formation changes and everything they do pre-snap. Because it's not just like a jet motion. Like they'll switch the whole formation up pre-snap to kind of expose what the defense is doing and cause some confusion on the defense side of the ball. So I think our offense will be really good this year.
Yeah, I agree with the point J Mick says. I don't think Alabama is just gonna fall off a cliff because you did lose Nick Saban, but that program is still Bama program. So, and I think Kalen DeBoer was a great hire by Alabama, and we'll just have to see. I think they're still going to be one of the top teams coming out of the SEC, and I think Jalen Milroe could be on the Heisman watch this year with the type of play I think he can bring to that offense. I don't really have too many concerns about Alabama, honestly. To me, it's just like, let me see what this new era of Bama football is going to be.
Yeah, I think to me, I'm most interested in seeing what Jamie was just talking about, like the development of Milroe with DeBoer, seeing what he was able to do with Master P for the multitude of years of how he helped him develop. And you can see the transition of what he was able to do for Penix from one school to the next over a gradual 4-year period through injury and things of that nature. If you go back and really look at Penix before the injuries, he was mobile. He was moving around. He was doing a little bit of an escape artist. Now he's more of a passer. I'm wondering if he can wear those same type of mechanics off into Milroe. And I think if you get Milroe to be a better passer with that offense, I think you have something that can attack You know what I'm saying? So I think obviously you're gonna have a big fall off with Nick Saban leaving. Obviously in the defensive ends, he was definitely a mastermind on that defensive side of the ball. But I think you might it's a possibility you might be a better offensive team in aspects if I'm looking at it like how maybe your offense is better but your defense is lacking until you find that gel of coach coordinators all in one where you can because he's coming from Washington. Obviously Washington isn't playing teams where they have to have the best defenses in that sense, right? You coming from a school where air raid and big points happens a lot in the Pac-12, but he's going to have to adjust. Him and his coordinators are going to have to adjust because they're going to play the best talent in college football. It's nothing. There's no other teams other than maybe a few teams in the Big Ten or whatever. They might be have a little something to say, but other than that, you going to the trenches, man. You're gonna have to orchestrate it. And from what I hear from Alabama fans, they're very optimistic that he's gonna be able to translate to SEC. He's gonna come into Alabama. It might be a small fall off, but not a big fall off. I just want to see it. I mean, to be honest.
So as far as the coordinators go, though, he didn't really bring a lot of his coaches with him. Like I said, he kept the running back coach. The running back coach, he's been putting guys in the league, right? And he's a great recruiter. Shout out to Rob G. You keep Freddie Roach for the D-line, one of the best at his jobs, too. You bring in Womack, who had a top 15 defense last year. Comes from the SEC background. Yes, he did it at South Alabama last year, but before, if you go back and look at the history of him, he comes from the SEC. He knows what it is to coach in the SEC, and he took a demotion to come work on this staff. I believe in Womack, and then even if you look at the two co-DCs we have, you got Coach Hitch, who came from Wisconsin last year. He has NFL experience and college experience. Then you go look at Mo Linguist, who has the same thing. He has college experience. He was the co-DC at one point at Michigan. He ended up leaving Michigan because Buffalo offered him the head coaching job, but he was the co-DC over there. And before that, he was working for the Cowboys. Before that, he worked at A&M. And Hitch, he was part of that Cincinnati staff that got Kobe Bryant and Sauce Gardner right. And he was one of those secondary coaches. So you really, on the defensive side of the ball, you have an assistant head coach and 3 defensive coordinators, basically. Because Freddie Roach is an assistant head coach. And then Kane Womack, he'll be the one calling the plays. But those other 2 guys are still going to have a really big say as far as the game plan and everything goes. They all have a similar philosophy. There's differences in their philosophies a little bit, but I think those guys they know what it is to be in the SEC because most of the coaches on the defensive side of the ball have been in the SEC before. And as far as the offense goes, I hear what you're saying.
What did the teams you talk about that were in the SEC? How did they stack up against the competition where they were, or was it more of a they were at bad schools type deal?
Well, I mean, when Womack was under his dad, because his dad was the defense coordinator, he was just a graduate assistant, but he helped him develop that defense that he runs now, the Swarm D. I think they were top 10 in turnovers. He's the guy that his defenses always generate a lot of turnovers. He doesn't put bad defenses on the field. And last year, even at South Alabama, they beat Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State played in the Big 12 championship game. Now, granted, it was early in the season. They were still figuring out who they wanted to play at certain positions. But Oklahoma State should, from the jump, have more talent than South Alabama. And they got blown out on that day. It wasn't a close game that South Alabama pulled out. They dominated that game. So I'm confident in the defensive side of the ball. I'm not saying it's going to be on the same exact level as when Nick Saban is here because he's a defensive genius. So there will be a slight difference to me. But as far as the offense goes, I mean, I could argue the Boers played against a team who a lot of people are high on coming into the SEC this year. He's played them twice, and he's beat them twice. Texas. Oregon, yeah. Oregon isn't necessarily an SEC team, but I believe they're built like an SEC team. And a lot of people I've talked to believe they are built like an SEC team. It comes from the head coach. The head coach comes from the SEC. Right? He worked at Bama. He worked at Georgia. Then he went over to Oregon to be the head coach over there. So if I'm looking at that team and the way they're built and the fact that on paper they were the better team, and he's never lost to Dan Lanning. He hasn't lost to Dan Lanning. He hasn't lost to Sark. He hasn't lost to Lincoln Riley. Like, he's not losing to a lot of good coaches. Now, you can say Lincoln Riley's had bad defense. I'll give you that. But I'm just saying, man, he's been playing at the highest level. I think in his time at Washington, he only lost one ranked game. I think it was 1 or 2 ranked games. And they were 4-8 the year before he got there. He completely turned that team around. He has more talent here than he had at Washington, and I have a lot of confidence in him to be able to be the head coach and, if need be, the play caller. For some reason, Nick Sheridan isn't working out, but he has a history with Nick Sheridan too. That's not a new hire.
Well, I know you're gonna be optimistic, Dre. We obviously expect you to be optimistic about your squad, brother. We think they're gonna be all right. You know what I mean? They ain't gonna just go to complete misery. But I gotta see it though. I gotta see it. It's a different look. I've been seeing Nick Saban for forever and 2 decades. Like I just don't know I don't even remember what Alabama looked like without Saban.
No, that's fair. But I mean, what happened at LSU when they lost Nick Saban? If you go do your history, they didn't lose more, or they didn't lose. They won at least 11 games.
Didn't they get a championship
3 years prior?
Right after that, kinda?
In the third year, they got to a championship. In the 2 years prior to that, they didn't win less than 11 games. So, Saban is a loss, yes, but Kalen DeBoer just played in the national championship. It's not like we just went and got a random coach. No, we got one of the best coaches in the game.
I looked into what DeBoer is, but obviously I want to see it in the SEC compared to the Pac-12. You know what I mean? And then I think before that, what it was at him and Penix was.
He was at Fresno State. Before Fresno State, he was at Indiana. He's been a couple of different places.
Yeah, so it's like, it's just a situation. I just want to see it translate to the SEC. Like, a lot of coaches do good outside of the SEC, and they come over there and get mollywopped.
I mean, the good coaches that come over here, I don't know. Brian Kelly wasn't an SEC guy. He comes to the SEC and has immediate success.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer wasn't an SEC guy before he got to the SEC. Hell, Nick Saban wasn't an SEC guy before he got to the SEC.
Yeah, just won a championship in the SEC, though. I mean, before he went to Alabama.
But I'm talking about before he got to LSU. He wasn't an SEC guy. And he came into the SEC, and he still put together an amazing team. So
he also put together the best. He also put together one of the best organizations to memorize, too. I mean, obviously, he did some things in his favor. He did great recruiting. If you got, I ain't saying it can't happen. If you got the tools to go over there and recruit and build and have successful offenses and things of that nature, you obviously gonna go over there and be successful, which Nick Saban had the goal to do. But I just want to see how it play out, man. If those guys turn up and I'm wrong, I have no problem being wrong. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. But as far as the recruiting goes, for people that do follow recruiting, Alabama been killing recruiting this year. We have number 2 class in the nation, and we're in line to grab a couple more 5-stars here like really soon. 5-star tackle, 2 5-star receivers. Depending on where you look, a 5 or 4-star running back. But if it's a 4-star, he's like fringe 5-star. There's a lot of talent. He's number 2 running back in the nation. So the talent is still coming. They still believe Alabama's going to be Alabama, which is encouraging because that means they're doing something right in the way that they're building the culture post Nick Saban. And
Does Nick
Saban's still there.
Saban have anything to? I was going to say, does he have anything to do with the organization right now?
He still gets paid by Alabama. He gets paid like I think it's $500,000 a year. He has an office at Bryant-Denny Stadium, so he's still around. Like it's DeBoer's show, but Saban is there. If DeBoer wants to go to Saban and talk to Saban about something, he's available to do that. His official role, I think, is like an advisor or something like that. Like I forgot what the official title is, but it's something to the tune of an advisor.
All right. Well, I mean, we're gonna see what it look like, man. But until then, man, listen, y'all are in a state where a lot of teams wouldn't want to be losing the greatest coach, arguably of all time. You know what I mean? But y'all have had a tradition of having great coaches, anyways. Because if not, people would say y'all got the number one and number two, wouldn't they?
Depending on who you talk to, yeah.
Most people would probably give y'all one and two. But the next team on our list, man, is Texas. We was talking about them a little earlier, man, about seeing that young guy ride the bench for one more year. We all thought Quentin Ewers would be in the NFL, but he took a chance and he went back. He betting on himself to get his draft stock up. I think it's a bad idea though. I really do. I don't think he can. I don't know if he can improve that. But I did want to see Arch Manning this year. Is there any way possible? That's the question I do got. Is there any way possible your boy Quinn Ewers get benched and Arch takes over for him?
Outside of injury, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think he's benched. I mean, injury, that's a whole nother story, though.
Yeah, when I say injury, I'm talking about like if he gets hurt and then Arch comes in and Arch is playing out of his mind, I don't think they go back to Quinn if Quinn is able to come back. But I don't think it's a case of Quinn having to worry about his job this year. Unless he's playing completely terrible, because he does still have eligibility, there's no way he's going to lose that job this year. Because, I mean, he had a second-round grade last year. He's trying to get it up to a first round, which I could see that happening, especially because this quarterback class isn't last year's quarterback class. I think there's still a lot of – I don't want to say it's not because it could still end up being a really good class. Like, there's still a lot of quarterbacks that have potential, but you have to see it unfold throughout the season, similar to Jaden Daniels prior to last season. Like, I was high on Jaden going into last season. I thought he could make the first-round jump. I didn't think he would make as big of a jump as he did. But that can happen at the quarterback position. Like, I mean, y'all gonna say there's a bias, but I could see that happening with Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe taking a big step in Kalen DeBoer's offense. And I don't know if he would go top 3 in the draft, like that type of step. But I do think Noah Fafita's another one he could take a step. I mean, Quinn could take a step. If Quinn can stay healthy, and this is technically this would be his junior year because he did reclassify, come out a year early, and go sit at Ohio State to collect the bag. So technically he would be going into his junior year this year. He wouldn't be draft eligible until after the season anyway. Right? So I do think that there's a potential for a couple of these quarterbacks to step up, including Quinn, in becoming first-round picks. But I'll say that I like Texas' offense. I think they brought in some good receivers. Obviously, they brought in Isaiah Bond from Alabama.
I wasn't going to say it. I was going to let you say it.
Yeah, they brought in Jonte Cook, who was a 5-star last cycle. He's a sophomore now. So that one, he should be able to be good for them too. They brought in Matthew Golden. He should be all right for them. And, I mean, they have one of the best left tackles in college football, if not the best left tackle in college football. I think he has potential to go top 10 in this year's draft. And then you add a guy like Nye Black, who's a dynamic tight end. He's not the greatest blocker, but as far as a pass catcher, he's really good. And then C.J. Baxter, 5-star running back, was, I think, the number 1 running back in his class. I'll have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure he was coming out of Florida. They have a lot of talent on that offense. My concern is that defense. I'm going to let y'all speak on it a little bit because I don't want to hog up all the time, but yeah, that defense concerns me.
I think they lost a lot too, man. That's a big part of it too, right? If I'm not tripping, they lost a lot of the talent on that defensive side of the ball, and replacing it, it doesn't always work out. But I don't know, man. What was their defense ranked last year? Do you know, Andre?
I don't know off the top of my head what their defense as a whole was ranked last year, but I know their secondary was terrible last year.
Yeah, I mean, that team was the front seven. The front seven was the strength. That secondary was trash. I mean, I don't think you can say it any other way, but it was trash. I mean, when I look at Texas, man, like Texas got a lot of talent coming in that fade, but they had a lot of talent go out. I mean, like they essentially lost their whole wide receiving core. They lost their running back. I mean, and I've heard some Longhorns fans say they don't consider their running back a loss because he tore his ACL in the season, and like Baxter got a lot of playing time. So I mean, and you can look at that. I mean, however you want to look at that. I mean, I'm fine with it. Like if you think it's a loss or you don't, fine. I mean, I really don't. I'm not going to stress that. They also lost a tight end who got drafted by the Panthers. They lost Sweat and they lost another lineman off that line as well. They were, I think one guy was a first round.
Murphy.
Yeah, one guy was a first round pick and Sweat was a second round pick. And so like they, and I get it. Like Texas runs a rotation on the D line, and like like the thing is like Texas fans are really high on their rotation, which I wouldn't mind them being high on their rotation. It's just they got a lot of moving parts. And then you also got Ewers who tends to get misses a game or two every year. So it's just like they got a lot of moving pieces, but they got a lot of talent on that team. So I get the hype for Texas. I get why people think they're going to be really good because the kind of talent that they have. I mean, Sark as a coach, Sark has done a much better job here than when he coached at USC. So, so we add all those things in. I mean, like, I can see why people think they're going to lose one or two games or maybe not even lose any games at all. Like, I've heard some people think that they might go undefeated. And I can see that. I mean, I don't think it's blasphemy or anything. So
you can see that with their schedule.
I mean, it's possible is what I mean. When I say I could see it, I think it's possible. Do I think it's going to happen? Hell no. But I think it's possible.
I think they have 5 games on their schedule they can lose. Now, I'm not saying they lose 5 games. When I look at that schedule, I'm looking at 5 games that I say, okay, they have the potential to lose this game. I think the Michigan game is a game they could lose. It's early in the year, and that Michigan defense is going to be really, really good. I think they're going to be elite. I have to see about the offense, so I don't know. That's going to come down to how Michigan's offense plays. I think they can lose to A&M last game of the season. It's a rivalry game. They're playing in Kyle Field. And anything can happen when you're playing. I would assume there's probably going to be a night game, too. Like, anything can happen there.
That's true.
They could lose to Kentucky if you just look at where Kentucky is placed on the schedule based on the placement. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Kentucky as a football team. I think Kentucky is going to be pretty good this year. Not like a dominant team, but I think they're going to be one of those teams that when you play them, you have to watch out. I think they could lose to Oklahoma, and I think they could lose to Georgia. Those are 5 right there. And I didn't even say Arkansas because Arkansas is probably going to be a really bad team, but that's another rivalry game. And anything could happen in those rivalry games. So I don't see them going undefeated. I actually think they'll probably lose 3 games.
And my thing is, if they end up losing 3 games, I mean, they're still going to make the college football playoff. But they're not.
I don't think so.
Great.
I don't think they make the playoffs with 3 losses.
I think in the SEC with their schedule, I think you could. Just depending on how like stuff falls out in like the Big Ten and like other conferences.
It depends.
But it also depends on the quality of those losses. That they'll have.
That matters, but you have to look at some of the other teams in the SEC, and I think that there's multiple teams that could end this year only losing 2 games. Like I could see Ole Miss being one of those teams that only loses 2 games. I think Alabama at worst is going to lose 2 games. Georgia at worst, you lose 2 games. That's already 3 2-loss teams right there. And then you have other teams who have really weak schedules to where they could sneak out 10 wins. That's the only reason I say I don't know if Texas makes it at 9-3, because I do think that there's a couple of teams that are going to go 10-2 in the conference. Hell, LSU could be a team. If I'm wrong, they could be a team that goes 10-2 too. They have some talent over there. So
I mean, not losing to Florida, they won't.
I didn't say
Yeah,
Florida
good brother.
lose to Florida. I said you could lose to Florida.
Well, she gonna hold that against you for the whole college football season.
I said you could lose to Florida, not you would. I mean, nobody thought Tennessee was going to lose to Florida last year. Look what happened. Tennessee was supposed to blow them out last year.
I don't know. Honestly, I had Florida beating them last year. Like when I
yes,
like because I understand. I mean, like Georgia ain't played in Gainesville in a while, but I understand what that atmosphere is like, and that's a different kind of atmosphere, especially them night games. And so I never had Tennessee beating Florida, never.
And to be honest, I didn't think the Tennessee team was like that. Like I didn't think they could just
the quarterback position was their problem.
Yeah, I just didn't think that they could just walk into Florida and dog walk them. I just didn't think that. I actually bet money that Florida was gonna win that game. So yeah.
I mean, we'll see this year, man. But I do think Florida could be a better team than people expect. But back to the Texas thing, like I just don't see. I don't see undefeated. I don't see one loss. I don't see 2 losses. I see at best 3 losses.
I mean, I just think it's a possibility. I'm not putting my money on it. I just think if they have a special kind of season, it's possible.
Last year was also the first year. Go ahead.
Like I hear what Jay Mick's saying. I just don't see undefeated season for Texas happening this year. I mean, especially with the losses that they had. I just can't. I just don't think they brought in enough talent to supplant that.
I mean, but I could also say nobody's seen them going to the college football playoff last year either, and they made it. So
yeah, but I think we all understood like there are certain things that took place that allowed Texas to slide into that spot.
Texas also did have a lot of hype going into last season, though. Like I remember a lot of people were high on Texas going into the season. The question was, and the question still remains for me, is Sark going to win 10 games this year? Because last year was the first time ever Steve Sarkisian won 10 games as a head coach. And now you're coming into the SEC. I don't know if you're going to win 10 games year one.
Yeah, and then me knowing some of the games that's on that schedule, that's not an easy schedule for them. So I don't know. I could see them being a 9-10, possibly 10-win team, but I'm just not that high on Texas this season. Like I give them another year or so. It has nothing necessarily to do with the quarterback position because I think Ewers is a decent quarterback. It's more of just the talent. I just don't think it's there right now on the roster.
Yeah, the defensive line, man. They brought in 3 transfers on the defensive line. Bill Norton was one of them. I think Bill Norton's supposed to start for them. If you don't know who Bill Norton was, Bill Norton was, I mean, well, Jamie, you should know who Bill Norton is. He was at your school for 2 years. Didn't see the field.
Yeah, he did.
At all.
But
see, transferred out. But this is the second time he done transferred now. Like, Bill Norton is not a good football player, and he's starting on that defensive line.
Yeah, but that's the thing about Georgia and the D line. Like, I mean, we had like Bear Alexander who played and he transferred to USC. And so, I mean, even though the USC defense was trash, I mean, I feel Bear didn't play that bad. It's just the DC and the pieces around him just weren't that good.
But Bill Norton is not a good football player. And Bill Norton is starting for that team. And the secondary, I'll say this, I think secondary upgraded in certain aspects, and the guys got a year older, so they have more experience. But I got to see how that secondary is this year, too. Because that secondary was terrible last year.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't any good. I mean, like, I just think, like, if Ewers stays healthy and, like, I mean, the wide receivers that they have and they brought in pan out, I mean, that team could be really, really good. Like I just said them going undefeated is possible. Like I said, I'm not putting my money on that. Don't hold me to that in October. It's talking about you said it's going undefeated because I'm not saying that. I just said it's possible. I now the more realistic option to me is that is, I mean, like they win 10 games. That's the more realistic thing to me.
I think that's their cap. I think 10 is their absolute cap. Like I see them winning 9, but I think at best they win 10.
And I also get why they have high hopes. They have high hopes because they made the college football playoff. Some people would argue that the game they lost, that they could have won that game if they would have ran the ball more. That's what some of their fans argue, and they kind of got away from the run, and that kind of hurt them. So, I mean, but I think that's what all the upside and the hype is with Texas is because how good they were last year, how far they got, and they just think that they're going to build upon that. And I just think like sometimes it's hard, like in college, especially in the SEC, it's hard. Like you was a contention for a title, and then you have to build upon that because the problem is not only are you a new team in the conference, but I mean I mean there's a target on your back just for being a new team in the SEC, but also because you made the 14 college football playoffs. So there's an additional target on their back where like teams are going to give them their best game, and they got to be prepared for that.
I'll say this though, one thing that works in their favor. They only leave the state of Texas 3 times all season. The 3 times they leave the state of Texas, 2 of them are against Vanderbilt and Arkansas, who on paper are supposed to be bad teams, right? The Arkansas game is a rivalry, so we have to see. But the other one is Michigan. Those are the 3 games where they leave the state of Texas. Every other game they play is in state.
The only thing I say about Arkansas, though, yeah, like I think their offense is going to be hot garbage, but I think their defense actually might be pretty good, though. And so I'm not saying that Texas ain't gonna be Arkansas, but I don't. That game might not be as easy as a game as I mean, like people think it's gonna be.
No, facts. It could definitely be a tough game. I think it was one of their receivers, if I'm not mistaken. He said their quarterback is better than Josh Allen. So we'll see about that. I thought that was blasphemy, but yeah, he said he was better than Josh Allen.
That's wild. And they're talking about Josh Allen in college or Josh Allen in the pros?
No, he said he's better than Josh Allen right now.
Oh, he's nuts. But I mean,
we all got to believe in something.
Like, Josh Allen in college wasn't that bad either, though. He just wasn't. He wasn't developed as much as he should have been.
Yeah. Now Arkansas, I think, like you said, I think the defense could be really good. They turned around that defense last year, so I wouldn't be surprised if the defense is good. But the questions come from me on the offense side of the ball, and I just don't see them being a really good team this year. Like I think their win total right now is 4.5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the only person I know that's saying that they might go over that is fans of Arkansas. That's about it though.
If they go over that, it'll only be by half a game. Like they'll get to 5, but I don't see them making a bowl game. I don't think they go bowling this year. So I don't know, man. I could be wrong though. They could be one of those surprise teams. It seems like every year there is a team that's like a surprise team that nobody really expected to be as good as they were, or not a lot of people, and then they come out of the woodwork. So I mean, that's the beauty of college football. You got so much turnover from year to year that you can try to predict it, but you'll always have like a sleeper come out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's
for sure. Them upset games be some of the best games. I ain't gonna lie.
What? Watching the team lose down the stretch to a team they shouldn't have lost to.
Yeah,
bro.
Say like
FSU,
especially if it's a great game, bro. Like, man, those be some of the
FSU against Jackson State. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I remember that game.
Yeah, I can't.
What'd you say, Mick?
And I said, and my school ain't got losses like that, so I really can't relate. Jackson State, like teams like Jackson State,
Man, you done lost. Hold on, because you done lost to Vanderbilt. Don't do that.
Vanderbilt is a D1 school.
But you lost to Vanderbilt. Come on, Jamie. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, they're D1 school, but like
we all know that. You said, but they're a D1 school. I mean, Jacksonville State was a D2 school. Losing to a D2 school is not the same. It's not.
Losing to Vanderbilt,
you still lost
like,
to Vandy.
Me, it's still losing to Vanderbilt to me is still on the same level playing field, bro. It's the same thing.
Nah. I just can't agree to that. I think like Vanderbilt's a better team than Jacksonville. Over the history, they've been a better team than Jacksonville State. Well, I don't say
but Vanderbilt is still Vanderbilt. Like Vanderbilt, we're not talking about baseball. We're talking about football.
Bama is losing 4 games and missing the playoffs.
Oh, Push. Hey, Push. We gonna talk about that, Push. We gonna talk about that, Push. Hey, let's have that conversation. We can have that conversation. We
Is
can
that the
definitely have that
Ohio State
conversation in
fan?
space. Yeah, that's the Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State fan.
He's not winning this conference either, so don't worry about it.
Hey, listen,
who is this
we
team?
can talk about Ohio State when we talk
OU.
about Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go too far into it right now, but y'all not winning your conference.
He said he trolling, man. He trolling, man. He trolling.
Nope, nah, that's written down already. That's on the record. Let me get up with. Shout out with, man.
All right. So we got 3 teams left, right? 2 of these teams, I don't know if I'm as high on as y'all might have said in Tennessee and Oklahoma. We could talk about them, but I don't know. Tennessee to me just can't never get it together. Like every time I hear about them being good, I just be like, no, they. And then I watch it unfold slowly through the season. They start off, got a couple good wins, and then all of a sudden you like, dang, Tennessee done lost 3 or 4 straight. Dang it, we knew it. Like I just don't know, man. It's just that factor of they've been that way since like Peyton Manning days. Like if I'm not mistaken, Peyton Manning never beat Florida.
I mean, Peyton Manning didn't win a national championship either.
I mean, but 2 years ago, like they didn't lose a ton of games 2 years ago. It was just they couldn't play in the SEC title game because they lost to South Carolina, where they ran out of fireworks. But they were a good team that year, and I think they have some of those same characteristics going into this season. Like I think the quarterback Nico, I'm not even gonna try to say his last name, but Nico is like that. To me, Nico was the best quarterback in that class. Like he was, to me personally, he was better than Arch. Arch was not the number 1 quarterback in my opinion, and a lot of people I talk to feel the same way. So I have high expectations for Nico this year. That receiving core, I mean, when you're looking at Brew McCoy, I got some expectations for him this year. We'll see what he does. Squirrel White is a guy who had high expectations coming in, and I mean, last year didn't necessarily work out the way you wanted it to, but I mean, you had Joe Milton as a quarterback, so that doesn't really surprise me. They bring in Brazil. Brazil's a good receiver. And they're going to be able to run the ball. Like, that's one thing about Tennessee we know. Tennessee's going to be able to run the ball. So on that offense, I think that offense can be good. And it hurts me to even be saying anything nice about Tennessee because they're the ops for real. But in the spirit of the podcast, we're keeping a stack about them today. But our defense, I mean, they might have one of the, if not the best players on the defensive side of the ball in college football that's draft eligible this year. James Pierce, to me, could be a top 10 pick. He could be a game wrecker for them. I think they got some other pieces, too. They got the freshman, Boo Carter. Boo Carter, I don't think he's starting. I think he will work in and play in games. And I think he's also going to make an impact early in the return game. So I think Tennessee can be a good team. That scheme that they run is hard to defend because they just spread you out so far. They use those hashes to their advantage, the wider hashes. So I just don't see them being a bad team this year, man. I think if everything goes right for them, they could also be a team that makes the college football playoff.
Man, a lot got to go right for them to be able to do that.
I'm going to say the same thing.
And you know, like the great thing is for me as a Georgia fan, Tennessee, they're not my ops, man, because we be beating the dog shit out them, right? They're not my ops per se, but I mean, I can't lie about Nico. I mean, to me, he's a really good talent at quarterback, man. I think he's definitely, I mean, like they lost Joe Milton, but for me, Nico was better. So I don't view it as a loss. So that's just the way I view it. And I mean, like, thing about Tennessee is like, you know, it's kind of what Dre said. Like their offensive scheme is such as to spread you out. So against the majority of teams, they're gonna run the ball. I mean, it's just the way the scheme is. It's just the way the offense is structured. They're gonna run against you, and you just the issue is that you just can't get gashed. Now the problem is if Tennessee start gashing you, you're not gonna beat them. And I mean, that's kind of what you see last year in the Florida game. Like they weren't able to run the ball in certain situations, and like like really like short yard, third and fourth down situations, they couldn't run the ball, and that's what had Florida beating them. So I mean, but the thing is, like, I mean, everybody can't do what Florida did to them last year. So that's just one thing. I don't know about the college football playoff. Like Tennessee, like I got them winning about 8 to 9 games. 9.
Have you pulled up their schedule?
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I not right now, but I've seen their schedule like when it dropped. Like they have a relatively easier schedule. But saying all that to say, like my thing about Tennessee is they always lose games to teams they're not supposed to lose to. That's my thing. So that's why I say 8 to 9 games. I mean they can surprise me and win 10. I mean, if they win 10, they have an opportunity to make the college football playoff. I don't think it's going to happen, but they have an opportunity.
Hey, J-Mac, I said they. Oh, now go ahead.
Yeah, to the point you just made, J-Mac, like they always drop games that they're favored in, and that's the problem I have with Tennessee is that at some points one side of the ball is just not consistent enough for them to close out a game. And while I do think they're going to have better quarterback play, and I think that offensive scheme is really good, I just don't know what that defense is going to give me out of Tennessee. I don't know. And I think that would be the hindrance to them getting to a 10-win schedule. Like I just don't see that right now for Tennessee, but I think they're okay.
They have 3 must-win games on that schedule if they want to win 10 games. They have to beat Kentucky, they have to beat Florida, and they have to beat Oklahoma. If they can beat those 3 teams, and that Oklahoma game, that's going to be a game that's going to be an emotional game for their head coach and probably for the Oklahoma fan base. We all know the head coach. Is that going to be at home? They're playing Oklahoma. No, Oklahoma's at home. So that one is gonna. But I mean, that coach should feel at home at Oklahoma. He's the one that has the bad blood. Heupel won a national championship at Oklahoma, right? He wanted that job. He was fired, and he probably, when he got fired, he probably shouldn't have been fired. So I don't know, man. I think Tennessee can definitely be a good team this year. And Jamie, don't get it misconstrued, man. We beat Tennessee a whole lot, but they still.
I didn't know North was an LSU fan. Like that. What's up?
Yeah, my guy North here, LSU fan, man. And check out his EP too if y'all get a chance. Check out the EP.
He finally dropped it.
Yeah, he dropped it. He dropped it like 2-3 weeks ago, man. The EP fire. Underdog EP, yeah, go check that out.
Well, somebody's supposed to send it to me, Pop. You know what I mean? But he forgot about it.
I tweeted it out.
Not you, Pop.
I pre-saved it on
I tweeted it out, man. I tweeted it out. I'll send it to you later. But
bro, you think I can see all them tweets, bro?
Hey, man. Nah, but for everybody listening, go check my guy out, man. His name on Apple Music, Spotify is n.r.m.n. Go check him out, man. The music is fire.
So getting back to it, I didn't say that Alabama don't beat the dog shit out of Tennessee. I'm just saying that's what we do. That's all.
No, for sure. I'm just saying they still the third Saturday of October, that matters, man. That third Saturday.
I mean, for me, like Tennessee, like when we used to play them all the time. Like their fans used to be high on the game. I'm like, for me, it was another game on the schedule. I ain't really do that game that high personally.
But you saying that you only have a 5-game series lead over them all time.
Yeah, but I'm talking about recently. We've been kicking their ass recently. So I mean, like
5-game lead ain't that much. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, so I mean, like what I really remember is like the year like the BCS rankings that came. Well, not BCS, but the rankings that came out, and like they put them number 1 over us. They were 1 and we were 3.
They beat us.
Yeah. They went to we went to Tennessee and we whooped their ass. That's what I remember. And it wasn't even close. And I think like Georgia's
but but with that Tennessee team, there was always issues.
And I mean, yeah, there's issues, but they also have a lot of talent. They just can never put it together for a full season.
Yeah. And it was like that season you talked about, J-Mick. The problem is that like with that Alabama win, people had high hopes for that Tennessee team, but I'm like, if y'all really watch that team, there are issues specifically on the defensive side of the ball, and that offensive side of the ball can get handicapped. And so if you're not able to throw the bombs, if you're not able to run the ball effectively as you need to, if you're not getting that defensive pressure, getting those sacks, creating disruption on the opposite side of the ball, you're not going to
I also
win.
argue that Alabama shouldn't have lost that game. I'm gonna be honest. Alabama should have lost.
If Bill O'Brien wasn't the play caller and Jahmyr Gibbs didn't choose the worst possible time in his life to drop a football, then we don't lose that
Yeah.
game. But yeah, you know, it
Like
happened.
Alabama shouldn't have lost that game.
We did though. I
Nah,
mean, they played a real
Alabama's
good game.
loss was due to their own mistakes.
Yeah, but I
It
mean, they
wasn't.
played a good game, man. And part of it
Mhm.
also was Bryce coming back from injury. He was still kind of hurt in that game, but he was on the field, so it's no excuses. They did what they needed to do to win the game. We didn't do what we needed to do to win the game. More power to them.
But y'all did give us a classy game. I ain't gonna lie. That's one of the those type of games for that season.
Yeah, I went to bed at like 5:30 in the morning, pissed off.
Damn, you stayed up. You stayed up for that one, good brother.
Smitty, I stay up for all the games. I missed one game last year. It was Mississippi State because I passed out right before it started. I watched every other game. It doesn't matter what time they start. I'm watching them.
All right. Well, we got all right, so we're gonna go through OU. Another team. I don't know, man. I don't know. They coming over. I mean, it could turn out good for them. I don't think it's gonna be as good for them as it's gonna be for Texas, but um, I guess that's up for debate. They what's the quarterback name? I was just looking at. I gotta go back to their name.
Jackson Arnold? Or are you talking about the one that left? Okay.
Jackson. Is he gonna be better than the guy that left? That was my question for you, Dre.
I mean, that's why Dalen Gabriel's not there anymore.
Yeah, he should be.
They're
better.
high on Jackson Darnold, like Jackson Arnold.
But wasn't
Jackson
they high
Arnold,
on Dylan Gabriel too, though?
I don't think they were.
Yeah, but it was understood that when they got Jackson Arnold, like I was talking to my guy Reese, shout out Reese, Oklahoma fan. He was talking about how it was understood that once Jackson Arnold came to Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel was only going to be the starter for one more year. Like it was known before the season that they were moving on to Jackson Arnold this year. Jackson Arnold, I forgot who I was talking to the other day, but it was somebody that lives in the state of Texas. They told me Jackson Arnold is one of the best high school quarterbacks he's ever seen in the state of Texas. Now he was kind of young, so he hadn't seen everybody, right? But still, in his lifetime, he said that's the second best, right behind Quinn Ewers. So those two were the best two that he saw personally. Like he was old enough to really watch. And Jackson Arnold was a really good quarterback. I mean, he didn't have a good bowl game, but I mean, look, I don't think that that's gonna be what we get out of Jackson Arnold this year. We have to see it. I mean, the offensive line they're replacing, I think it's the whole offensive line. They might have the two tackles might still be from guys that were on the roster last year. But the one thing I'll say is that Oklahoma always has good offense lines. Similar like Michigan, they're replacing 4 starters, but they always have good offense lines. So I kind of give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to offense line. And they brought in a really big piece that a lot of people aren't talking about. Deion Burks is going to go crazy. He's going to go nuclear in that offense this year. The wide receiver Deion Burks, remember that name. He's going to go crazy for Oklahoma. Like that kid is special. So I got some hopes for that offense. And I mean the defense side of the ball, you got Brent Venables. Brent Venables, he's a defensive guy. Like that's what he does. He does defense. So I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma is better than a lot of people expect them to be this year. The only thing standing in their way is they have a tough schedule this year. So it's not going to be easy for them to outperform expectations just because they drew the tougher schedule. But that comes because they've been the dominant team in the Big 12. Like if you go look at Texas and OU in the Big 12, Texas hasn't been the dominant team in the Big 12. It's been OU. OU has been dominant over there. Like that was their conference. Contrary to popular belief, because everybody thinks, oh, that's Texas' conference. No, that was Oklahoma's conference. Oklahoma ran that conference.
I mean, before Texas was good last year, Texas ain't really been good in almost a decade, though.
But Oklahoma has been. Oklahoma's been consistently good.
Yeah. I mean, like they were the flag carriers of the Big 12 for the last 10 to 15 years. That's it.
Yeah.
People that don't know that, I guess you don't watch Big 12 football, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. But I mean, people that watch college football, they already know that.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like they're getting disrespected coming into the league. I don't know why they're getting so much disrespect, and Texas is just coming in and people are just handing them the number 2 or number 3
Texas
spot.
Beat you last year.
I mean,
I get that. I get that they beat us, but I mean,
that's all it takes.
They had all
to change, right?
But they had all season. They had all off season to prepare for that game. They weren't worried about the first game of the season. It was similar to the year prior. If you watched the first game that we played against each other, all that was talked about that whole game is how Sark and his staff had been preparing for that game since the day the season ended. That's all they were preparing for.
What, are the Bama game?
Yes.
Well, yeah, because they knew if they don't beat Bama, their season was pretty much over. They weren't going to beat the 14 playoff if they didn't beat Alabama. They don't have that luxury this year to just be able to focus on one team. Like you're actually going to have to game plan for these teams this year on a shorter notice. I mean, it's not that's what we trying to tell Texas fans. The SEC is not the Big 12. Like what you just said is true. Like you can't just be laser focused on Oklahoma. Or like an out of conference game like Bama, and that's it. Granted, SEC has schools like Vanderbilt that aren't that great, but it also got schools like Ole Miss, Georgia, Bama, LSU, Tennessee, Florida. Like there's a list of teams that if you don't come in ready to play, they will beat you. And I mean, doesn't in my opinion doesn't have that.
I have a fun fact about that. Right, I was listening to Josh Pate's show that he does. And he was talking about it over the last 5 years. If you take out the top 5 NFL factories in the SEC, you take away Georgia, Bama, LSU, it was Kentucky, and I think the other one was Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. If you take those 5 out, and you compare the amount of players that both conferences have sent to the NFL over the past 5 seasons, they've both still sent 108 players to the NFL. And that's including Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12. So without Georgia and all of those other teams, you have the same amount of NFL talent in your conference as the SEC without the big dogs. So even if you beat those teams, you're gonna have the attrition going through the season because it's gonna be a more physical game.
Yeah, I don't know why people was really that surprised about that, because if you're really in tune with NFL draft and the pro days and all that, people talk bad about Arkansas, but Arkansas put a lot of players in the league. Ole Miss is a good team. They put a lot of players in the league. Even Mississippi State. I mean, they ain't been the best program in the SEC, but they put players in the league. I could go on. Like Vanderbilt has even put players in the league, so it's not like the schools that are bad don't have NFL talent, because they, like you just said, they all do. And like the Big 12, I just don't know if they have the kind of talent. Well, no, I'm not gonna say I don't know. I do know that they don't have the kind of prospects that the NFL prospects that the SEC has. And I just think there's gonna be a transition period. I mean, for Texas and OU, I don't know. I ain't saying gonna last the whole year, but it's gonna be a transition, because you go into Arkansas thinking you got an easy win, like you're going into like Kansas. Well, I ain't gonna say Kansas State. I ain't gonna say Kansas either, but one of the lesser schools in the Big 12. And I don't think it's the same. I think it's gonna take some, it's gonna take some adjustment. So
yeah, that is definitely a different brand of football. Because you can look at the those two teams, I can talk about Texas more specifically than Oklahoma. They struggled with some really bad teams last year. If you go look at Texas, like they didn't have great games against some of these teams. Like you could say the Houston game is a game they should have lost. Now I think the Houston game was also the game Quinn got hurt, but the Rice game is another one where it was close.
It was a struggle.
Like they had some games last year where it looked like they were playing down to their competition, and if they come into the SEC and they think they're going to play down to their competition, they're definitely in danger of losing some games for sure.
Because I mean, I can even talk about my team. Is like we never look past Missouri, but it's always a hard game, whether the game is in Missouri or whether it's in Athens. So it's a hard game. And like, you know, Kentucky, you know, I mean, when we were playing Kentucky every year, I mean, we would always beat Kentucky, but I mean, like, you know, the thing is, like, I mean, Kentucky would always put up a fight for like a quarter and a half. And I just, that's my one question about these like Big 12 schools is like, how are they going to adjust to that? And it's like, you know, I mean, you're going against NFL talent week in and week out at multiple positions on these teams. And so
I think it's going to be a adjustment period, like to what y'all saying. I don't think they're just gonna come in and walk shit down. You get what I mean? I think it's gonna be an adjustment period because while a lot of these teams may not have been in the college football playoffs or whatever, these teams play tough. They play hard. Like Kentucky, they play hard. So I don't think these are just gonna be gimme games, and especially the type of caliber players OU and Texas have. I don't know. I'm not saying that they're not NFL players or whatever. I'm just saying I don't know if the styles are going to translate to the SEC. And I think it's going to be a transition period, especially this season. And then we'll also probably see like a difference in the teams next year. But just this season, I think it's going to be a transition period. And we'll see how it plays out. But I'm not looking over OU. I think they're a really decent team that can compete in this conference. I don't think this is just like I don't think they're a team that you could just walk all over just because they were in the Big 12 last season. I just don't look at it like that.
Last thing I'll say about Oklahoma, I actually think that they're better set up long term to be good in the SEC than Oklahoma or than Texas.
That's fair. Well, J Mick, last team of the day, man. I'll let you take us up out of here, cuz. Start us off.
Yeah, so I mean the last thing we talking about is my Georgia Bulldogs. So I mean like we had some additions and some losses. I'll start with the coaching staff. Our running back coach, I think his name is I think it's Bud McGee. I think that's what his name is. He went to Georgia State. So he took some establishments with him to Georgia State. So I mean, like that's one loss. We also lost our DB coach. He went up to Syracuse. He's the head coach up there. So and he brought some guys up there with him on the coach staff as well. So I mean, like the running backs coach. I mean, I'm not as concerned. I mean, like we always have a rotation of guys, and I think you know, I mean, like the guys on the staff that's going to be the new running back coach. I think he's going to do just fine. I mean, I can't say that. I mean, like you know, the dude that went to Georgia State is you know like it's no loss because I mean like we've had good running backs for a long time. So I mean it's definitely a loss, but I think we can do okay. You know, with the I mean like guys that we have there. I mean, coaching the running backs. And then like the secondary coach or like the DB coach that we lost. Yeah, I mean that to me is a bigger loss. But I mean that's I mean Kirby's side of the ball. So I'm you know like. The way I put it is like I mean you know I mean like you always want to see a guy that's you know I mean like been coaching you know with your team for a while and he gets an opportunity to be a head coach somewhere. So I'm not mad at him for doing that. I mean, but it's definitely going to be a loss. But I think Kirby should be all right. And you know when it comes to like the actual players on the team, I mean like Georgia's been the kind of team over the last couple of years where you know we've been really successful. Where like you know like we'll lose players to the portal, but we're also gain players to the portal. So I mean, like we lost a couple running backs and a couple like defensive players to the portal, but I mean, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like for me, like we always lose a lot of players to the draft. Like, we add players in the portal, we lose players in the portal. So I'm not super pressed. I mean, like a good example is like we lost Tyler Williams. Like he was one of our wide receivers last year. He went into the portal. But then we signed Michael Jackson III from USC in the portal. So it's like I don't want to call it a 1-for-1, but I mean, like we lost a wide receiver and, and we gained another one. And like draft wise, I mean, like we did lose a lot. I mean, like, we lost the best tight end in college football. I mean, Brent, Bowers. But the good thing for us was like when Bowers got hurt last year, Delk, had to step in. And I mean, Delk is not a bad tight end. I mean, he's not to the level of Bowers, but I mean, he showed what he could do. And then we lost Ladd McConkey. I mean, Ladd McConkey, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I mean, Ladd is a big loss. I mean, like he did it all for us last year. But I mean, he was also hurt. I mean, like the thing about Ladd is, I mean, like he gets like nicked up a lot, and so like he wasn't completely healthy throughout the duration of the season. So we had to play, different guys. So I think we'll be fine. I mean, my biggest item, I mean, for my offense is going to be the quarterback, Carson Beck. I mean, like Carson Beck last year was good for the most part. My issue with Carson Beck is his like deep ball. Like, I mean, if he wants to be what he wants to be, like a top 10, top 15 pick in the draft coming up, like his deep ball has to be better. And it just wasn't where it needed to be last year. And I mean, if he can get that fixed, it just makes our offense even more, harder to defend. So I mean, like that's what I'm looking at. I mean, out of him. And we got the transfer running back out of Florida. For some reason, I just can't remember his name right now.
ETN, Trevor Etienne.
Yeah, Trevor Etienne. And so I mean, we got him out of Florida. Like, I'm really excited about the kid. I mean, he's not going to be like the workload because I mean, we said it earlier. Like, we run a share in our backfield, so he gonna get his fair share of carries, but he's going to share the backfield as well. Defense is kind of the area that does concern me a little bit, like especially like the D line, because I mean, we have two guys that are going to be our interior D linemen. They're seniors. I wasn't exactly thrilled with their like performance last year, but I mean, like we got to see if they could grow, because I mean, like we were susceptible to the run last year. Like teams were running the ball more in Georgia than I've seen in the last couple of years. So I mean, Georgia got to get that cleaned up. And I get it. Georgia lost one game, but I mean, if you're watching the games, like I'm watching their games, they were getting run on. Like, I mean, it's not like to, like a crazy extent, but when you look at Georgia in their past with Kirby, that's when you can count on that, we were going to stop the run. And last year, they weren't really stopping the run. So, I mean, like, like I said, like we have two seniors back there like that, I mean, like need to perform better. And we got to see how that goes. I mean, like the linebackers in the secondary, I'm just not really worried about. I mean, like we always have strong linebackers and we always have a strong secondary. So I'm not really concerned about that. This is going to be controversial, what I've been saying, because I've been saying for a long time that I mean, we're going to beat Texas and Bama, but the more I look at it, the chances are they're not going to win both of those games. The chances are they're going to win one out of them two games. So
I guess y'all beating Texas.
Nah, I mean no. So if I had to choose, it would definitely be going to Alabama and beating Alabama at their place, because we haven't beaten them a whole bunch in the SEC regular season. So I mean, Texas is. I mean, if we win a game, it's cool. But I mean, for me, like the bigger game to win is Bama, because I mean, like we got to show the team and the fans, like, look, like I mean, we can't beat them now. When Saban leaves, then when the hell are we gonna beat them? And that's what I boil it down to. I mean, the rest of the schedule is, I mean, it's challenging. I mean, like you said, I mean, like we go to Texas. Florida is like the annual game in Jacksonville, which I believe this is the last year that it's going to be in Jacksonville. Like they're about to switch that up. I mean, there's just a lot of winnable games on our schedule. Like I only expect us to lose 1 to 2 games. I mean, that's all I expect. And if we lose more than that, then something went, I mean, like wrong during the season.
J. Mick, let me ask you, which one of your corners was it that was getting cooked last year? Was it Humphrey or was it Everett? One of them was getting cooked. And one of them looked bad.
And
last year. It was a couple different games with, like when he played, anytime he played, he didn't look good. It might have been Everett. Which one hit the portal? Was it Humphrey or Everett? I think it was the one that hit the portal, but he ended up coming back.
Yeah. I mean, so we're bringing back Humphrey. He's a redshirt sophomore, and then I mean Everett's the junior. I believe it was Everett though. I want to say
clear event, but one of them was getting cooked last year.
Both of them back, right? Both of them there, right?
Yeah. Both of them are there, yeah. And then
okay.
Dan Jackson, what can you tell me about Dan Jackson?
I mean, Dan Jackson was, like he was a depth piece last year for us, realistically. I think he's all right. I just don't obviously, we lost both our safeties last year. Well, not both, but
one. You lost because Malachi's still there. Malachi's one of the best in the country.
And Malachi's there. We lost one of our safeties, and I like the kid, I really like the kid. I think it's a loss. So we're Dan Jackson's stepping up into the strong safety role, and he's got to, he's got to play well because Malachi Starks. People respect Malachi, so I just don't think people are going to test Malachi too much. But I do think they're going to test. Jackson. I think he's going to get tested. And I got to see how that looks.
How early do you think KJ gets on the field for y'all, KJ Bolden?
It's kind of tough because I think he's going to play. Because the thing about Kirby is Kirby loves, whether you're talking about D linemen, linebackers, or safeties, corners, he likes playing a lot of different guys. And he likes to use a lot of different, I don't say schemes, but formations and
he likes to rotate.
Yeah. He likes to rotate. So I think KJ will see the field at some point. But the thing is, if Jackson plays horribly bad, then I think KJ is going to see the field a lot sooner than the end we think. I think that's kind of how I see it.
Okay, then my last question about your offensive line. Truss, if I'm not mistaken, he came into the Bama game last year, right?
Yeah, he did when our right tackle got hurt, yeah.
And you couldn't do anything on that right side once he came in. He started for you this year, correct?
Yeah, he's our starting right tackle.
Okay, do you think he's greatly improved? Because last year it didn't look good.
He didn't play a lot last year. Yeah, he didn't play a lot last year, so and I think he played a couple of games, but not a lot. So I think this year is different. He's going into training camp. He's one of the guys that's going to be playing. So I just got to hope he improves. If he doesn't improve, it's going to hurt us in the run game and the pass game. So I'm hopeful that he improved, but I don't have any data to say, oh, he's going to be much improved. I can't. For me, like I said, it's hope. I'm hoping that he got better with the more reps he's getting. In the summertime and throughout the fall. I hope. But I have no way of saying that he's definitely going to be improved.
Okay, now because that's one question mark I have on your offense, and that's honestly one of the reasons we'll talk more about this when the game comes around. But I think we're going to beat y'all this year, and it goes back to what happened when we played y'all last year. We dominated you on both sides in the trenches, and my trenches on offense have gotten better, and my trenches, you could say outside of the right tackle position, but on defense, I didn't really lose much. So I don't know, unless your team greatly improved and got more physical, I feel like we're going to be the more physical team in that game too.
It's like I've been saying with the Bama game. I just think on your defense, y'all going to lose something. I don't. Things you don't lose an all-time defensive coach and you don't lose anything. Granted, offensively, I said earlier, offensively, y'all gonna be better. I've always had that opinion since you hired the coach that you hired. So I'm not one of those guys. I'm your offense is not gonna be that good because I don't hate no road. I just think you need to develop. But saying all that to say, I view your defense is gonna be a little bit weaker than it normally is, and I think we're gonna capitalize on that.
Well, we'll see. But I know I didn't really lose anything on that defensive line, and they dominated your offensive line last year. So I want to see what that's going to look like because you're replacing. I know your team is high on the center, right? What's his name? Jared Wilson. He's supposed to be one of the most athletic centers in college football. He could put up crazy numbers at the combine. That's what my guy Bank was telling me. So the center position, cool, but Truss at right tackle, I don't know about that one, man. I think that's going to be a weak spot on your team, and that's going to be something that teams try to exploit. And if he didn't improve and you can't run to the right side, I know you have You have your right guard is one of the best in the country, right? You got Tay Ratledge at right guard, but if that tackle spot isn't short up, man, it's gonna be hard this year. But I do like your team though. I like Oscar Dope. Think he'll be good for you. I like your receiving core. I'm expecting Dominic Lovett actually to be a little or have a little bigger role in your offense this year because I remember Lovett at Mizzou.
He was good at Mizzou.
He was like that at Mizzou, and it felt like he kind of he kind of he kind of got lost in the mix last year. But I expect him to have a role, and I think in the red zone, Colby Young. I don't think Colby's starting for y'all. I could be wrong on that, but Colby Young is a big body, and he's definitely in the red zone. He's going to be a weapon. Yeah, he's going to be a weapon. X. Yeah, but in the red zone, he'll be in the game in the red zone, and he's going to be a big weapon in the red zone for you. It's a big body. He's going to be able to go up and get in contested catches and stuff. So I like your team. I don't think I'm as high on your secondary as you are. I like Malachi. I like Janelle Aguero.
I think that
those two are really good pieces. ETN should be a big pickup for them too, yeah. But I mean that running back room is deep anyway. Like they have a really deep room at running back.
Yeah, I mean it's deep, but like the one thing I say about ETN is like I don't think we've had a back that could do everything that he could do in terms of being explosive. Like we've had great backs. Over the years under Kirby, but I don't think nothing like him though.
Didn't Kirby have Todd Gurley? Or was that before Kirby?
That
was before Kirby. That was before, yeah.
Yeah. So he hasn't had someone with like the kind of the kind of like build as ETN. ETN could do everything, and the great thing for me about him is like you give him the ball, like he could take he could take the ball the distance. And over the last couple of years, we really haven't had a back that's been able to do that. We've had, don't get me wrong, we've had great running back. I won't say great, but we've had really good running backs. But like none of them was just like, you give them the ball and they can take it the distance. Like that's my thing with him. That's how he differs.
Yeah.
But we're gonna see because I want to ETN, but I got my doubts because Florida, when they had him, they weren't really using them. So I don't have doubts. It's just like I don't know if it was the coach or it was him. Most people say it was the coach, and that's why he left.
I'll say this: I think ETN will have a better showing with y'all. I think y'all proven to do well with running backs in the system that you guys have. So I expect to see better projection out of him.
I hope so. But like I said, like I'm high on him, but it's like I said, like it's either it's either two things. Like it's either the coach the coach wasn't using him right, or like he wasn't doing something right at Florida. It's one of those two things.
Year one he had a great year at Florida, right? Like going into last season, I remember a lot of people saying that Florida had the best tandem in college football, but it just didn't work out last season. It just didn't translate. But I think he'll get back on the right track at Georgia, and I do think he's going to be a really good running back for y'all. But I don't know, man. I could see y'all. I see y'all losing at least 1 to 2 games. Like I think we're gonna beat y'all, and then potentially it's gonna come down to I think y'all play Texas and Ole Miss, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think you could lose one of those games. If I had to choose, I would probably say Ole Miss over Texas. I think you beat Texas.
Yeah, but the thing about Ole Miss is like they don't beat us like that. They haven't ever since Lane got there. So that's the one thing I would say. It's just like people always we go into the games and people are always high on like Ole Miss, and they just don't have the defense to contend with us. And that's the one about Georgia. Like if you don't have the defense to stop our offense, we're just gonna run you over. That's what we're gonna do. and with Ole Miss, that's what's been happening the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, but I think they got a lot of pieces. I forgot to even mention Suntarine Perkins when we were talking about Ole Miss earlier. But Suntarine Perkins is another guy on that defense who's special, man. That kid is special.
Yeah, the thing about Ole Miss, I don't doubt the talent in who they recruit, who they got in the portal. I don't deny that. But the thing is, they always have a lot of talent, and they can't seem to put it together for every single game that they play. And I think Ole Miss game is at Georgia this year. Because I think we played in Ole Miss last year, so I believe that game's in our Athens. I believe so.
It could be. I think it's gonna be a great season though. Like we're gonna get a lot of really good games this upcoming season in the SEC. I mean, obviously, you're going to have Alabama versus Georgia. You're going to have Alabama versus LSU. You're going to have Georgia versus Texas. You're going to have Oklahoma versus LSU. You're going to have Oklahoma versus Alabama. You're going to have, the Tennessee-Alabama game probably going to be a good one. You're going to have, I think the Texas versus A&M game will be good. Texas, it's an out-of-conference game, but Texas versus Michigan should be a good game. Those are just a few of the games. Like there's still a lot more games that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. But there's going to be a lot of really good games, not just in the SEC, but in college football this year. This is a great year. Like if you haven't really been watching college football a lot and you want to get into it, this year is definitely one of those years to get into it, man.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with realignment, we get to see some dream matchups we've been wanting and haven't had an opportunity to have, and we'll get that this year.
Yeah, for sure. And like the dope thing is, nobody has divisions in their conferences anymore. So like if you're
Hmm.
one of the best two teams in your conference, you're playing for your conference championship. So even the conference championship games, the SEC you can say for the most part you've had the best teams in the SEC championship game. But if you go look at a conference like the Big Ten, you've had Iowa, Wisconsin, that one side of the Big Ten just wasn't all that good. You had all of the firepower really in one side. And that's something you won't see this year in college football. It's going to be the best two. Like
For sure.
there's a potential that teams could play as many as 3 times this year. Like there's a world where Alabama and Georgia play during the regular season and play for the SEC championship and play in the playoff. Say the same thing about Ohio State and Michigan. You can say that about a lot of different combinations of teams. So, like, this year is definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I think that's what's so great about the 12-team, playoff is like that's what you can get. You can get, great matchups like that multiple times. And versus years past, you would definitely get it one time, and you might have got it twice, possibly.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about that, it kind of does devalue the impact of certain games, especially if I'm looking at like Ohio State, Michigan. They play at the end of the season every year. How hard are those teams really going to play if it's guaranteed that they play each other again the week after? Like, are they going to care as much about that game as they did prior? Because that was the biggest game on the schedule for them. But if they're going to play each other 2 weeks in a row, do you potentially not throw a game, but do you potentially withhold certain things
So you can
because
have the upper hand in the second game.
Exactly. So because you know you're going to see him a week later anyway. You could say the same thing about, the Georgia and Alabama game's early, so that wouldn't apply to that game. But I think you could have situations like that happen. It could be a situation where Oregon and Ohio State played 3 times this year. So
It kind of go back into what I was saying last week, Andre. Like, what if let's say for instance we 2 top 5 teams and we playing for the title game? We know we both going to make the playoffs, so especially for the SEC team, we both top 5, and one of us lose. We more than likely going to be y'all are more than likely going to be in the 12 still. You know what I mean? So it's like a situation like that.
So one thing I will say is though, you got to watch the committee too, though, because like there might be situations where they might not want to see that game for a third time, so they might set up the seating in a kind of way where you might not get that. Like,
For sure.
I wouldn't even saying like seeing it for the third time. Just the fact of, let's say for instance Georgia and Alabama seeing each other for the second time, but both of y'all know y'all making the playoffs. Are y'all gonna go as hard in the SEC title game as you normally would if you knew your playoff spot was on the line?
Oh, now those 2 teams, I do think Georgia and Alabama, when those 2 teams step on the field, I don't think that there's going to be any withholding anything. And it probably would be the same for Michigan and Ohio State, but those are still questions that just come. Like when you see teams playing twice and potentially 3 times in a year, those questions come. Like, but I think with I don't know, with Georgia and Alabama, it's just they're not coming to play.
So sometimes I say, like, I would say the same thing about the ACC. If Florida State and Clemson was playing for the second time in the ACC championship game, both them schools is going hard because Florida State don't like Clemson like that. So like I mean, I think certain matchups, like teams ain't just gonna give it up. You know what I mean? Like like especially in the conference championship game, like you know what I mean, like that's part of the goals when you start working in the summer. It's not just to win the natty, but it's to win your conference. Like that's that's a big thing.
But I'm more focused on like games that happened last week of the season. Like this is not gonna happen, but let's say Auburn and Alabama were the top 2 teams in the SEC, right? It's a heated rivalry and everything, but you are playing them a week later again. Now, do I think that we would withhold anything? Probably not. But is there a possibility, and does the question come to mind when I see that? Yes.
Yeah, see, I just think it's like Auburn. Like, I mean, that's if we want to call it the Iron Bowl. Like, I don't think either team is not just going to give up the game so they can't win. I just don't see that.
Not necessarily give up the game. Like, of course, both sides are still going to try to win the game, but you just might not pull everything out your bag the way you would in the past, because you got to keep some of that. Because the week after when you play, if it's guaranteed you're going to play in that game guarantees you a first round bye, a top 4 seed, and you getting to choose where you actually play your first college football playoff game.
I mean, I feel what you're saying, but to me, the Iron Bowl, and I'm not even a Bama Auburn fan, but the Iron Bowl means something to to those schools.
Not for sure.
So for sure. And one of them just saying, well, we're going to see him next week, so I really don't know.
For sure. I don't think it would happen, but like I said, those are just for conversation's sake. When you see that, it does kind of give me pause. Like, I mean, if A&M and Texas were the best 2 teams in the SEC and they met the SEC title game, I don't know. It's kind of weird, man. But I do think we're going to see some teams play twice this year, and I think there's a potential we see it 3 times, just depending on how the playoffs go. I mean, depending on how far those 2 teams get, maybe it's in the national championship that we see 2 teams play for the 3rd time that year.
It's kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, I think the committee, you might see that team a 3rd time. It's just not going to be in the first round, though. Like, it
won't be that early. It won't be that early. Yeah, but at some point in the playoffs, potentially.
Oh, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, like if Bama and Georgia meet in the championship game, then there's just nothing you could do about it. Like, like that shit's going to happen. So,
yeah.
Well, we had the 2 hour and 23 minute mark. The SEC, man, you see it, man. It didn't take us as short as it did for the ACC. We was in and out. Very, very competitive division, man. Very competitive conference. They don't have divisions. I missed it. Very competitive conference, man. So I think this year for the SEC is going to be interesting. If you're a fan of the SEC, obviously you're going to have some interesting weeks. And if you got to play them, you might have some miserable weeks. I mean, it's just like that. But we are all excited to see what happens, man. Anything y'all got for the people before we get out of here?
I mean, just tap in. Next week, we got another conference breakdown coming for y'all. I appreciate everybody that did tap in. SEC is the best conference in college football. I don't really care about the SEC, though, because if they ain't wearing crimson, I'm not going to say the rest. But for those that know, they know.
J Mick?
Just thank you for continuing to tap in with us. Tell a friend. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much what Dre said. I mean, for me, it's the best conference in college football. Led by my team, which is one of the best teams in college football this year coming up. I mean, like, we got a lot of expectations, and I hope the niggas, play well. I mean, that's about it. And it's kind of like what Dre said, like next week, and and we're gonna touch on another conference, and and we're just gonna keep it going.
Yeah, I wouldn't say being led by Georgia, but y'all up towards the top.
I mean, it's definitely being led by Georgia. And we have the most expectations in like in the conference this year.
You got to win the SEC championship to be the leader.
But that's what we've been doing though.
Till we get dethroned, we the leader. We got 30 of them things.
Oh, wow.
What?
What happened, Pop?
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't care about Bama and their SEC championship.
Oh, that was sarcasm. She hit you with the, oh, wow, you got 30.
I don't care.
I would expect that from a school that, hey, y'all got to catch up, man.
Bro.
Y'all got to catch up, man.
Who cares, nigga? Like,
just catch up. That's all I'm saying, man. Catch up. Got 30 of them things.
Well, man, y'all know what it is, man. Until next time, peace.
Gonna